Welcome, everybody, to the Normal America Show. Unlike usual, when I tell you how tonight's show will be great and the rest of them are all shit, I have to let you know, if you're going to skip one show this year, have it be this one. No, I'm just kidding. Glad to be here. Glad to see everyone. I am a little tired. I had a long night last night, so I wanted to do a stream here tonight. I would like to be done by 11 o'clock p.m. at the latest. Now, please keep your racial epitaphs and your clever jokes. Come on now. Kaisetin. I might be a boomer, but I could pick up on that. Game was fun, so I took my man Hank to his first hockey game. So, just to let you all know, a little private, but I think I'll tell you. Hank had a doctor appointment. It was just a checkup with an audiologist, make sure his ears were good. His ears are fine, so that's always good news when you go to the doctor and get a good report on your little man. So I was happy to hear that. Good report. Ears are great. And then we met up with some friends, had dinner, went to see the Pittsburgh Penguins. Unfortunately lost in overtime 5-4. But I was a little freaked out because I thought Hank would be overwhelmed. That was his first time in a big crowd like that. And, you know, any sporting event could get very loud, particularly with the, soundboard and all of that good stuff, playing the music and the people shouting. And he was a trooper, man. He loved it. Of course, his favorite thing was Iceberg, who's the mascot of the Penguins. He kept coming around banging a drum, getting people fired up. But it was a lot of fun. Anyways, then we spent the night at my friend's house, and Hankster and my wife went to bed. But me and my friend stayed up until like 3:30 in the morning discussing movies and all of that good stuff. So, and then I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna ask, are there any bird watching enthusiast or ornithologist or anything like that in the crowd? Because I'm gonna try to recreate a bird whistle, a bird that kept me up, got me. So I went to bed at like 3:30, and I think this thing woke me up at 6:30. So I'm operating on like 2.5, 3 hours of sleep. I'll try to recreate the noise here for you, and someone can tell me what type of bird this was. All right, so, well, we can't all, Medieval Mike, we can't all be Chads like you. So, all right, here we go. I'm gonna try to. Oh, thanks. You know, very pleasant of you. Mm-hmm. So let's try it. Ready? Is that loud enough? It was just wind. Is that what it sounded like? Just wind? It was like that, except I'm doing a really bad impression. Is that a robin? I don't know. I don't know anything about bird calls. Anyways, this damn thing must have been right outside the window. And I was sleeping in. Had me up all night. Dove, maybe, I don't know. Also, keep in mind, I'm not doing a good job of recreating the sound. So, yeah, wind is as good as answer as any. No LSD. I did have a beer at the game, but that was it. That's a mating call. Wow, look at this. We're getting all these, I'm guessing NAFO folks. Look at that. We're getting a lot of them, right? With the crazy looking names. Nice. Do I got any mods on YouTube? Can you have a quick trigger with anyone that has a name that sounds like that wants to make sexual references? Not that I'm really offended, but when you're in the position I am, where YouTube wants to ban you at any given moment, even having people in the chat. Thanks, Glow. Appreciate it. robnoerr about to get destroyed by another lefty. Pisco, you bet. Tonight's topic, best bait for trout fishing. Me versus Pisco. Let's go. No, I don't have anyone lined up specifically to bait, but I was hoping I could chum in some lefties and argue with them. Be happy to debate any and all of them. They come on as a big group if they want. Have like a consensus. A pigeon cooing? It might have been a pigeon. I don't know. It was in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, to give you a location if that's... Yeah, Aftershock, I'm not going as far as you, and so I'm not going to throw the gloves down because I don't care to get in this drama battle. There's another one, Sezen. How many can we block? You don't trout fish? See, I could already tell you're a better fisherman than me because I don't go fishing for a type of fish. I just fish, and if I catch something, I wind it in, then I throw it back. So, what's up, Pentable? Nikki Haley does suck. I totally agree. Yeah, they have tuned in. Love it. Love it. The NAFO people, or just general lefties. Who knows? Yeah, Aftershock's talking about, it's so tiresome. See, people are catching me on a night when I'm tired because I haven't had much sleep. Lad, am I a Trump fan? I don't know. Sure. He was my third choice to win the Republican primary. I'm guessing you're the same guy that's been banned 3 times here in the past minute. Anyways. But at night when I'm tired. Thanks, Go Rams. I appreciate it. I had... Nah, I won't tell that story. It's mean. There was a girl once. I guess I am telling the story. We were going fishing. We had salmon eggs to go fishing with, and she saw them on the table as we were like getting our tackle box ready, and she's like, "Salmon egg. What is a salmon?" And I was just like, yeah, no. I don't want a good fighter. I want something easy. Anyways, getting back to what Aftershock saying. So, to let you know, I guess I'll just sum up this show tonight. We'll be talking about whatever people want. We'll just roll with it. I don't have anything specifically lined up. I have some ideas for some shows coming up in the next couple days I want to do, but by the time we woke up, barely got any sleep, hung out with my friend's place, then it takes about 2 hours to drive home. And then my in-laws were dog sitting, so we had to pick up my in-laws, had dinner with them, came back, hung out with Hank till he fell asleep, and then I came up here. I haven't had much time to put together a show for today, but that's okay. Yeah, so Aftershock's making this point, like the right wingers, particularly on the online debate sphere here. Me and the fam are doing well from the online debate sphere. That, by the way, I do have to give this troll credit. Can you imagine just creating account after account to just come back on here and be like, do you know a gentleman by Mr. Mike? Do you know him? Can you say his name? Hey, man, good for you. You're doing it, man. Yeah, Vivek should be his VP pick because he might actually do something. So, yeah, you got to give him credit for the dedication. I totally agree. So anyways, Aftershock's talking about these right-wingers that are online streamers that are right-wing streamers that then went with this progressive pack, progressive victory packs streamer day where in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago they had a bunch of people come together and canvas. I don't really give a shit. I got to be honest with you. Listen, I don't know. I guess I'm tired, so maybe I just don't have a filter, or maybe I'm not thinking clearly. Good one, Melissa. Here's why I don't give a shit. Like, it's for different reasons than you might, and this is gonna make me sound really crappy. I just assume that every streamer is shit. That's the truth of it, or at least a certain caliber of streamer. I just assume they're garbage. I assume they're basically talking out their ass and they're petty and they're vindictive and they care more about their own brand and they don't have sort of a consistency. And it's like, it's almost like, so I have to be vague about this. Melissa. See, I like you used a name that time that was less obvious. Oh, I don't disagree. Guess who farted? Um, I add myself to that as well. Like it does seem that it takes a certain type of personality to want to put yourself out here as a streamer. Um, I don't know anyone that streams that's like me. And I don't mean that I'm a more moral person or anything like that. I mean that has sort of around my political positions. Well, that's not true. I do know people. Like Aircraft Sparky would be one. And maybe, let's be frank, though. I'll be honest. Let's be frank and Sarah Kane. I think they're great, but they're probably more socially conservative than I am. Lecture fans, yeah. But none of those people and me have a really big following. As far as right wing streamers that do this sort of online debate sphere stuff, none of us have a really big following. And I feel like a good portion of all the other people that I'm not mentioning, I felt like they were always in it for I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, for their own personality. And I'm in it for that as well. As I'm not going to claim to be above the fray. I'm a sack of shit. I'm egotistical. I know it. So I'm not trying to really, but I guess I'm just trying to say I'm not surprised. Like for example, I know I hate to keep bagging on him. Like Connor from Counterpoints. Like, am I surprised that his position makes no logical sense whatsoever? That he's like, I'm a conservative, but I'm getting paid by a progressive group to help progressives win, not just the presidential election, but also down ballot. Not like moderate Democrats, but a progressive Democrat group. Antithetical to supposedly the goals of conservatism. No, I'm not surprised. Why? Because never made sense to me. He's someone who could sit there and tell you about the corruption of all of these establishment institutions, but still orange man bad. So I'm not surprised. I just don't care. I just don't. How many people on the arena list behind me would I put on the shit category? All right, let's start. Top three are all good. Aircraft Sparky's good. Fabian's good. Casimir's good. I'm not saying I agree with them on everything, but those three combined and me have probably the reach of a small lefty streamer. So we're not really hitting the mark. Pisco's a bad faith have. Prime K's is just like, I don't know, drama shit at this point. Turk's okay. I like the Turk. Counterpoints, I always just assumes trying to be a slightly more right-wing version of Destiny. He's a centrist that hates Trump, orange man bad, yeah, whatever. Kevin Logan's radical progressive. Phil KOE's like a showman. I wouldn't say that he's someone that you would listen to for he's playing a character. I think it's funny, but I can see how some people don't like it. But anyways, he's fine. Phil's fine. Rachel's good. Synth is a pretty good left-wing debater, but insane, just debate bro. Stardust seems like a nice enough person, a left-winger. I don't think she's a very good debater at all. American Nacho's fine. Bunk is Synth's buddy. He's like Synth light, Synth's little toady. Jebtan's exactly like Counterpoints, where he is a right-winger in like that. It's basically just I hate Trump. That's his right-wing politics. Nina is one of the worst debaters I've ever seen in anything. Sansol's a very likable guy who I enjoyed interacting with. I think he got his shit together. I think let's give a round of applause to Sansol. I think he got a girlfriend and a job. And I haven't seen him streaming for a long time, and that probably means his life's going in a good direction. I don't mean because he was a bad streamer. I actually like listening to him, but I think that he realized I'm not joking in the least bit. I hope Sansol's doing great. I hope his relationship's thriving. I hope he has kids. I hope he has a meaningful job that he likes. I really mean that. I like Sansol. So, Wicked Wally's funny. He's a good guy. Andrew Wilson, good debater. Destiny's a good debater for the left, but I think his political opinions are dog shit, but whatever. Drone Tech I really like. Awesome at making short form videos about the corruption of the media. Dylan Burns, lefty, one issue guy, Ukraine, whatever. Zen Shapiro's fine. He's good. Micah and P.F. Jung, I barely remember if I'm honest. Phenomics was basically a synth type follower. Does that answer your question? Do I feel bald? Now, I know this is the same troll that's asking me if I feel bald solidarity with Tim Pool. Yes! I probably have less hair than Tim Pool at 39 years old. I don't much give a shit, though. I don't have to look at my bald head. My wife does, and you all do. Plus, it's an advantage if I'm in the middle of the debate. Shine someone in the eye. But yeah, that's how I feel. Anyways, I don't know. I just don't care. I like the Turk, too. He's a good guy. Yeah, Turk's fine. I just don't give a shit. I don't care about the drama aspect. Like, again, and I don't know. I guess I'm in a different... Like, listen, it's not that I don't believe what I say. In fact, that's probably what separates me from a lot of these other people, right? I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, there's this horrible corruption that's going on and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I'll still take money from the other side, blah, blah. But I do think... Thank you, Zen. Yeah. I do think that, what was I going to say? See, I'm half asleep. Let me take a drink. But it's not rhino in the same way. There's two types of rhinos. There's the establishment rhino, and then there's these people. I lump them in the same category as my friends that are left-wingers. It's like, okay, whatever. And I'm not saying they're my friends. I just don't give a shit. Like, what am I going to say? I think Connor's a decent guy as far as he seems like a family man. He seems like a good husband. Seems like an okay guy. He wants to be Destiny's buddy. He wants to get the clout from being Destiny's buddy and Orange Man bad, and he'd rather take the money than have logical consistency. That's it. What am I going to do? Harp on it every day? Go on and fucking fight about that? It's like, whatever. That's what it is. I've said my piece. That's all I have to say about it, really. And now today I found out Sprouticus was there. Same fucking thing. Same thing with Tiberius D. They pretend to be these right-wingers, but they don't give a shit. What they really are is right-wingers that are like, well, anyone but Trump people. And they would rather have the most radical lefty people in charge that would commit any kind of obstruction. They don't give a fuck about free speech. They don't give a shit about gun rights. They don't give a shit about pro-life. They don't care about fiscal conservative. They don't give a shit. They would rather back people that would be worse on each and every one of those topics than Trump, because Trump hurt their feelings, or it's cool and to be with the in crowd, and when you're streaming on Twitch and you want to be in Destiny and Dylan Burns crowd, and so it's cool and you get more viewers, do that, and plus it's nice to get money, and that's where the viewership and the money is, and that's how you refrain from getting censored, by being the good conservative that, well, we like him when he's on the panel, but we don't like Rob because he's unhinged, because Rob disagrees with us and they just agree with us all in name but only. That's it. I don't know. I don't, what else can I say about it? How many times can I say it? Like, that's who they are. Does that mean I'm sitting here like, I hope Connor's channel suffers? I hope that he's shamed every day. No, I don't hope that. I don't at all. If it comes up, I'll tell him how I feel. But that's it. I'm not going to waste my time on it. I'm going on Tim Pool's show, probably on the 1st, it looks like, though. There's a chance it might get pushed back to the 15th. But I put John... not as bad as those previous people that I mentioned, but John, I think, is completely wrong in the fact that he hates Trump more than he hates the fucking establishment Democrat Party. And I think it's a terrible position to be in. But I don't think, one of my criticisms of Trump, like, let me get a little arrogant here for a minute. You know how one of my criticisms of Trump is that sometimes he punches down in unnecessary ways. Like, Trump shouldn't even utter the words Nikki Haley ever again. He shouldn't. She has no chance to beat him in the primary. Nikki who? Next question. That's how he should treat it. The mere fact that he says her name gives her more than she deserves. That's how I feel. What am I going to do? Oh, today we're going to talk about Sprouticus and Tiberius D. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Great. I don't care. Yeah, I would debate Connor about him being a fake conservative. I wouldn't mind it at all. But again, I'm sitting here talking to you about issues about like the weaponization of every institution in our country to the point where we literally could be touching a point of no return. Is it worth me to spend a night out of that being like, let's talk about Republican streamers that have 10 people watching them that went and got paid by a progressive group? Maybe? You know, I don't know. I don't know. Having said that, I still talk about the drama I feel like, but it's the drama I feel like. You know? So I don't know. That's just how I feel. And I have a difficult time disliking Connor. I still like him. Nah, Zenzi, we'll shut you down. Thanks, bud. Connor claims to be like a conservative centrist or something. He calls himself a Republican, but he gets paid by Progressive Victory PAC. Not just any run-of-the-mill Democrat group, a progressive Democrat group. Which, it's just nonsensical on face value to call yourself a Republican and work with get paid by Democrats to help Democrats beat Republicans in elections. And then still say, but I'm a Republican. Doesn't make sense. But it might even make less sense to call yourself a conservative and work for progressive groups. I don't know. It seems strange to me. They're not really progressive. They're not progressive. Trust me, they're centrist Democrats. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I have to say about it. I'm going to keep harping on it, but talk about it like every night. Yeah, I think Vivek should be VP because Vivek should be the presidential candidate, and he might actually, as VP, actually have Trump's ear to do what needs to be done with these corrupt institutions, like trying to kick out huge swaths of the federal executive branch workforce and shutting down the FBI and things like that. So I'm all for it. So, quick update on potential going forward. Hey, Alina, thanks for being the same person. Wolf Chief, we'll see you too. Why not? Sorry, if you're one of the people getting blocked and you're not this same person coming back, sorry. You're saying something that was stupid in chat, and there's people that keep coming up with different names saying shit, so you're getting lumped in with it. Trump said a VP pick historically has never made a difference. Would you agree with this, or do you think this would be an outlier? No, I don't think it would make a big difference, to be honest with you. Not a big difference in the sense of does he have a chance to win? Like, I guess you could say, I mean, arguably, if you're really looking at it and you're like, well, what gives Chance the best chance to win? Maybe Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. DeSantis, I would be fine as a VP pick. But you could say, well, Haley will assuage some of the fears of the Never Trump neocons and would bring an insertion of cash that he desperately needs coming into this election. I don't give a shit about that. I'm not looking at what moves the needle on a chance to win. A Nikki Haley vice president is a no vote for me, period, because I know that that means Trump won't have long for office. Even if he wins, they'll boot him out within a year or two, and then we'll have President Nikki Haley. I refuse to accept that. So I will not vote for that ticket. I give a shit about which vice president would be the best vice president. That's what I give a shit about. But Trump's probably right that I don't think that, you know, if he picks Ron DeSantis as opposed to Vivek, that all of a sudden that means he would win versus lose. I'm sure there's some small amount of crossover, but yeah, ultimately I agree. I don't think Girk's been brought by the establishment. I think John Burke's someone... I mean, if I could be quite honest here, I think Burke's someone who has issues that he feels that Trump was was egregiously against, like Second Amendment issues. And I feel that Burke got caught up in the drama of DeSantis influencers versus Trump influencers, and Cat Turd and Dilly Meme Team said something mean about John Burke or people John Burke likes. I think it's that simple. I think it's funny. I will say, let me bitch about my own audience here for a minute. It's funny that my audience seems to be driving me to drama. So, like, my stated point was, I'm going to try to stay out of this drama and try to, like, get Trump across the finish line in the 2024 election. Like, that's what I'm going to do. So if that means overlooking some things and trying to give an olive branch to certain people to try to encourage as many people as possible to vote for Trump, that's what I'm going to do. And my audience is just like, no, talk shit about everyone you've ever collaborated with. Talk shit about them all. Fuck it, destroy them. It's thank you guys. You guys, yeah. I have a bloodthirsty audience. But what can I do but tell the truth about how I honestly feel? Yeah, I saw that Vita Milei's doing a good job. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. I don't know if you... And I'll do it. I have no choice but to tell the truth. That's who I am. I'm authentic. Dewey and Carlson. I like Ian. I enjoy talking about him. Ian reminds me of like stoner friends that I had going to college, and I like people that think differently than me. I think Ian comes up with some batshit crazy points, but that's okay. So do I sometimes, and it's because he's thinking in a really different way than someone like me would think, right? So I look at things like, well, I'm looking at what this specific situation is on the ground with a particular corruption issue, and Ian's looking at things like, what if we all live in a simulation? It doesn't mean he's wrong or dumb to think like that. It's just, and I enjoy that. Trust me, I hung out with a lot of dudes that thought like that, and ladies. Other than the debate team, most of my friends I met in college were artists, because I suck at art, and I enjoyed hanging out with people that were different than me. That's how I feel. Now, would I be able to co-host a show with Ian? I don't know, because that stuff's good for a collaboration here and there, but to do a show every day with someone that's looking at the world that much different than you would be maybe distract you from what you wanted to talk about. But no, and Ian's been nothing but kind to me and helped me out. So I don't have anything negative to say about him as a person. I'm not going to co-sign to all of his opinions, but that makes sense because I don't co-sign to anyone's opinions completely. And he's thinking vastly differently than me, but I think he's fine. I enjoy listening to him. Having said that, if someone says, but did you hear what he said on the June 17, 2023 show? Now, I don't follow that closely, so, Dilly Mean Team's awesome. I don't know. I don't know much about them. I feel like there's edgy and funny, and then there's edgy and played out. That's how I feel about it. This is what the audience wants to talk about. Drama shit. Okay. Who else you want me to talk shit on? No. What's happening with Pisco right now? I don't know. He debunked something? Was he putting something on X that I haven't seen? I don't know. What did he debunk? Jabal Moment again? He debunked that shit? Yeah, nothing. It's just same shit with Pisco. Yeah, I mean, Pisco's thing is with this confidential human source, right? I mean, I already kind of talked about this, but we go through a little more specificity of it now because what's happening is Russiagate 2.0, right? So we were told in 2016, and right before that election, and then for 4 years, we were told the Russians helped Trump, and Trump worked with the Russians, and he colluded, and he's a Russian asset, and blah, 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 blah. And then it turned out there was someone working with Russians. It was Hillary's team in the FBI. And they were working with a suspected Russian spy, spreading disinformation to go after Trump. And it worked. And they used it to get FICE warrants and spy for over a year and send confidential human sources and blah, blah, blah. Then in 2020, the Hunter Biden laptop comes out. And what were we told? No, it's Russians. Hunter Biden laptop story is Russians. 51 former intel agencies told us it was Russians, and we censored the story and everything. And then guess what happened? Turned out it wasn't Russians. Now the laptop story was real. And now we're going into the 2024 election. And drum roll, please. What's the story coming up? Can anyone tell you? It's Russia collusion again. Trump colluded with the Russians. This time, because a confidential human source that talked to Bill Barr's team in 2020 is now being arrested for allegedly lying. And there's one line in the indictment that said some of his contacts that told him stuff about Biden were Russian. They were like in the Russian government. Russia collusion. Russia worked with Bill Barr. Russia worked with Trump. And we're right back to the same story. That's what we're told, right? There we are. The other thing is, cheat on those Russians, right? The other thing is this, like what this story really proves, and we can go through it in details. If someone wants to come in, if you're on the left and you want to debate on this topic, I'll fully admit I've thumbed through the indictment. I've not read it with a microscope because I've been very busy since it came out. However, unlike the people on the left that when the Her report comes out decide we're just not going to talk about it or we'll pretend we're reading through it. And now we're on day 14, day 15, which nobody's commented on it of the people I debated that said when Trump allegedly said he had classified material on tape in front of a writer. It was the biggest deal in the world that proved a crime. But when Biden did it multiple times and then proceeded to read the classified information, no comment on any of them, right? I actually thumbed through the report the night it came out, the CHS indictment, and I gave an honest video on it. And you can find that video on X. And I talked about it. So I've already discussed the details. Then I had another show where I talked about it even further. Now, I haven't gone over that data. I've seen briefly the news article, but I haven't read the report. The news article that everyone's citing does say that it slightly increases brain damage and myocarditis, but it also says that COVID increases it more. So the argument would be if the vaccine slows down the rate of contracting COVID, even if it causes small amounts of brain damage and myocarditis, it's still less than if you would contract COVID. So that's not necessarily a smoking gun. I don't know, Ian Presley. How many chicken nuggets can I eat from McDonald's? I don't know. For my life. I don't know. Probably 20, 25. I don't know. I guess if it's for your life, you'd be like that scene in Seven. So maybe you get out of hand. I don't know. Do you get dipping sauce? I don't know. So, anyways, the thing that I think is the funniest when shit like this. So let me be clear. I am not always the best at adhering to a rule that I should do better to adhere to, which is nothing is written in stone. Anything you see, like for example, you could see a report that says this is from Fox News and the NPR and a .gov, justice.gov that says, former Clinton aide arrested for colluding with Russians, we'll say, and then it could say this is what they did. And then it could come out in court 6 months later. Actually, there's a reasonable defense of that, but you're still talking about it for those 6 months. I'm certainly not the only person to do this, but it doesn't matter if other people do it or not. I should try to hold myself to a higher standard. So are there times, where I'll say, this story proves X, and then it might turn out that that story is not true? Yes. Most of the time what I'm talking about, though, because my target isn't Joe Biden, and it's not Donald Trump, and it's not Hillary Clinton, and it's not Hunter Biden. What I'm talking about is double standards from our institutions. So most of the time when I'm saying, just like when Pisco tried to get me on this CHS thing earlier in the week, and he quoted an old tweet of mine, the tweet of mine is actually completely true. I said it's damning, and then when asked why it was damning, I said because the FBI treated with a double standard when a confidential human source says something about Joe Biden versus how they treated it when a confidential human source said something about Donald Trump. When it was Trump, it was FISA warrants, it was sending spies, it was years-long investigation. They kept it going forever. When it was Biden, they were like, 2 months, shut it off, don't do anything. And that's exactly what we found out from this indictment. That's what happened, right? What this story really shows, it actually, in a way, vindicates me. Now, let me say from the get-go, and again, this is repeating myself, but if people want to talk about it, that's fine. I don't mind it, right? Is it possible that this CHS completely lied and made up all the stories about Joe Biden getting a $5 million bribe from the owner of Burisma? Yeah, it's possible. It absolutely is. If so, should that guy go to prison? Yes. If Donald Trump or Rudy Giuliani told him to make up that story, should they be charged with a crime? Yes, they should. You can't do that. You can't intentionally make up lies to send to the FBI to try to smear your opponent. You can't do that. You could request, if someone comes to you with something and you're like, fuck yeah, we'll take it. We'll send that forward to the FBI. Absolutely fine. I don't have a problem. But you can't intentionally make it up. You can't. Right? The problem with this story is so it could be that. Now, if that's true, does that, this is what The left saying today, see, everything was bullshit. All this story about Hunter Biden, the fact that he illegally had this gun and he didn't pay taxes and that the Hunter Biden laptops, see, it's all Russian disinformation. No, that's not. The entire confidential human source portion of this, the 1023, was the most clear smoking gun evidence that would have directly tied Joe Biden. Like, if it was true that there is a paper trail that this oligarch gave Joe Biden $5 million, that's it. That's the end of the debate. That's nothing else necessary. But if that didn't happen, that doesn't mean that all the other evidence doesn't apply at all. It doesn't mean that at all. Any more than would say, oh, did you see the Christopher Steele dossier was bullshit? Well, that means Trump couldn't have withheld classified evidence. Because it was bullshit. It was disinformation. And people would say, well, what does that have to, what does Christopher Steele have to do with this other issue? Right? Because one variable falls apart doesn't mean that all of the other evidence no longer applies. But that's what the left's trying to do. Now, all of this is assuming that the FBI is not corrupt and Weiss isn't corrupt and this guy actually is lying. He may not be. We'll see. But for the sake of argument, we'll assume he is. Sparky. Jeez, oh man. Thank you, Crisco. Appreciate it. So that's where we stand. I'm not going to sit here and sell my credibility, though, and be like, well, even if this guy lied, who gives a shit? I'm not saying that. Not at all. If he intentionally lied to try to influence our politics and he knew he was lying, yeah, he should be charged. I'm not the left. I'm not Pisco. I'm not Destiny. I'm not Dylan Burns. I'm not Erudite. I'm not Brianna Wu. I'm Really Important. I'm not David Pakman. I'm not Sam Cedar. I'm not Rachel Maddow. I'm not Cenk. I'm not the type of person that says, no, my side does it. It's always good no matter what. But it doesn't mean that everything else I just said is not true. And Pisco knows this. I saw someone was pushing him earlier today on it. I think it was Connor, actually. Counterpoints was pushing him. It was like, just because one variable falls doesn't mean the story falls. And so Pisco goes from, this proves that the story's debunked. And then one tweet from Connor, like, just even if this was, as it's being said that this guy lied, that doesn't disprove anything else. And then Pisco resorts to, but none of that other stuff proves anything. Right. So, again, make the big sell. Russia collusion. This proves that it's all bullshit. And then within one tweet, it's like, well, maybe it doesn't, but the other stuff's nothing anyways. Yo, Biden's going to mumble through another speech. They're jacking him up with amphetamines as we speak. But here's the part of this story that I think's funny. It does show a double standard, which is exactly what my argument is, more than it is going after Biden. And beyond that, it shows a specific argument of many of these people I've argued with is complete shit. I had a chat with Aftershock on the phone earlier today and was talking about this a little. One of my favorite things is watching so many of these people, particularly on the left I debate, that'll just blatantly lie to your face, right? And we see that a lot, right? Oh no, when Trump said peaceful, he meant violently. Oh no, when Jabal Bowman said, I didn't intend for the alarm to go off, he meant he did intend. Oh no, when Mike Flynn said, I can't remember, we know that he does mean that he can remember, and we would always mean that, right? Like, the lies are blatant all the time. But the best are when the lies come with incredulity. Like, what's the word I'm looking? Like with a sense of, like, arrogance and entitlement. Or, I'm not even using the right word because I'm half asleep. But, like, when you get this reaction, how dare you? How dare? That's my favorite. I love when I get that. It's absolute one of my favorite things, right? So it could be something simple, be like, well, if a right-wing cause decided they were going to riot like dozens upon dozens of times all through a summer and burn down buildings and shit, and basically all of our institutions were like, well, it's indignation. That's the word. Thank you, Ian. Great debater here. He couldn't even come up with the word indignation, right? If right-wing groups would have did that, you people would have went nuts. How dare you? Can we focus on what I am saying? How dare you assume what I would do? This is outrageous. How dare you? We're here to talk about what I said, not what you think I would do. How dare you? I fucking love that. I love it. I love it. Especially when it comes to Trump-related shit. For example, hey, if Trump's team got FISA warrants that were illegal to spy on his opponent, you people would flip shit. How dare you? How dare you know what I would do? How dare you? You know? So one of the things I always said was, looking into Russiagate, just looking at the story, where you had almost every institution in this country take the side of Hillary Clinton, who concocted a story about Trump colluding with Russians, worked with a suspected Russian spy to get that story to the FBI, who knew it was a suspected Russian spy, knew it was concocted by Hillary Clinton, took that information, used it to get unlawful FISA warrants, to send actual spies to deal with people to investigate Trump's team for years. So the actual Russia collusion and Russian disinformation that affected our election was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and completely endorsed by the FBI because it was going after Trump. And when I would tell people, if the shoe was on the other foot, you would lose your mind. And I know you would, because you lost your mind over the false allegations in 2016 that Trump colluded with Russia. It was the biggest story in the country. So all of a sudden we want Trump colluding, huge deal. Can you believe a presidential campaign would collude with Russia? Oh my God, it's the biggest deal. And then we found out, actually that was bullshit, but Hillary's team did collude with Russia and the FBI signed off on it. And they were like, no big deal. And I was like, you'll see. The worm will turn, you'll see. Now we're right back there. So the same people that told you it was no big deal that Clinton's team literally colluded with a suspected Russian spy to spread disinformation, that unlike anything Trump's team's accused of here in 2020, the FBI then took that information, got FISA warrants, got spies, and launched an investigation that lasted between it and the special counsel about 4 years. That's what happened. And they have no problem. They never said Hillary Clinton's team needs to be investigated. People need to be locked up. Oh my God, the FBI was working with Russian spies to go after Trump. This is horrible. They didn't say any of that. They didn't give a shit. In fact, Pisco himself, who's like the most vocal person talking about this shit that I've seen today, at least on my timeline, he just a week ago, not even a week ago, called it the Russia hoax. The Russia investigation hoax, implying people like Rob that talk about how corrupt the Russia investigation was. Please, that's a debunked hoax. And now he's out there today, exactly like I said he would be. If even 1/10 of this would be accused of Trump, you'll lose your freaking mind, which is exactly what they're doing. And he knows it. He has no defense. None. He's just like, oh, Rob won't accept it. Accept what? I'll happily debate you right now. Now, admittedly, I haven't read through the indictment entirely, but I'd happily debate him or anyone else right now, even half asleep. I don't give a shit. I'm not running from anything. I'll talk exactly about it. I talked about it the first night. I'm not like them. I don't have to wait for the news cycle to change and pretend, actually, I'm reading through documents. I can't comment on it until I read the whole document. And it's going to take like a month before I could get through the document. And then the news cycle will change and I'll put one tweet out. I commented that night. I tried my best to leaf through it as fast as possible, get the pertinent information. So it has shown exactly as I said, but it's not like that I was a genius to predict this. Yes, if the allegation was Trump's team knowingly colluded with suspected Russian spies to intentionally spread disinformation about his opponent that was then taken by the FBI and used to investigate the opponent in serious ways, the left would lose their goddamn mind. And now there's a sliver, just a sliver of that compared to what we actually know about the 2016, where Hillary's team did just that. She intentionally created disinformation with a suspected Russian spy that they then back-channeled to the FBI, who knew that it came from a suspected Russian spy, paid that spy, knew that that spy's team was also being paid by Hillary Clinton's team and it was opposition research, then still used that to get unlawful warrants to spy on Trump's team, in addition to sending actual human spies to people like Carter Page, and kept the investigation up for 3 to 4 years. With this alleged back channel that Trump and Barr had with with Russian interest, blah, blah, blah. What came of that? Nothing. Was there FISA warrants? No FISA warrants. Did they send spies like Stephen Halper into Biden's team? Nah, they didn't do any of that shit. What'd they do? Nothing. No large investigation, no charges, no lawyers' offices raided in the middle of the night like it was with Trump. Nothing. No leaks to the press. Nothing. Not even 1/10 of what happened to Trump in 2016 that they're all perfectly fine with. Now you see people like Jamie Raskin and what's the Levi Strauss guy? I can't think of his name. Goldman, right? Daniel Goldman's out there, and they're like, all of this is Russian disinformation. You know what this means? The impeachment team, the impeachment committee, they're doing Russia's bidding. Okay, but doesn't that mean that in 2016, almost every mainstream media outlet, every Democrat, and many of them still today were doing Russia's bidding by spreading Russian disinformation of the Steele dossier, saying Trump colluded with Russia? Wasn't that Russia's bidding? Oh no, that was different. Is that true? DS? Let's real quick look through the allegation. So the allegation, there's one sentence that says some of his sources were Russians. Let me ask you this. Honest to God, you tell me. If you have a confidential human source, so you're the CIA, and you're trying to get sources around the world to basically give you information about, usually about hostile organizations, right? So let's make it real simple. Like, let's not even do the CIA. Let's say you're the FBI and you're trying to get information about gangs, MS-13, and you have a confidential human source. Do you think that your confidential human source, if they're any useful whatsoever, might have contacts with MS-13? Thank you, David. $5 for tax season. I will take it. Thank you so much. Do you think that confidential human source, you might be able to say, they have contacts. Some of their sources are members of MS-13. Well, yeah. Or they probably wouldn't be an effective CHS. Am I surprised that a confidential human source that was employed by our CIA or whatever intel agencies for like a decade, basically to look into corrupt foreign oligarchs in Russia and Ukraine, had contacts with the Russian government? No, I'm not surprised. What exactly was the information that the Russian government gave to Smirnov, the now indicted confidential human source? It says he acknowledged that some of his sources were Russians that gave him information against business person one, which I assume is Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. What was that information? Well, we don't know. Does it make sense that the information would be what he's being charged with lying about? What he's being charged with lying about is he said he met these people in 2015 and 2016 that then told him, hey, we paid a bribe to Joe Biden. And they're saying he never met them in 2015 and 16. But that doesn't sound, unless it could be, but it would be worded very weirdly, right? Because if he's like, well, I'm admitting now that I never was at that meeting, but the Russians told me that. But why would you say I was at the meeting then? Presumably, the Russians that gave him information was stuff that he was telling them, and presumably he was informing a lot. And so there might be some other 1023 out there when he says, also, I was told that Hunter Biden was selling influence this way or was giving his dad this money. We don't know. There's no direct line to the thing he's accused of lying about was exactly what the Russians told him to lie about. Like, if he's now, I would say his case, his defense is completely washed. If his argument is, after he's been arrested, oh, I made all of that shit up. That was just stuff Russians told me. Yeah, I did see that, Ozer. But they just jumped to the conclusion, Russians told him to make that up about Biden. Maybe the stuff the Russians told him about Joe and Hunter Biden was true. And then he made shit up beyond that. I don't know. The point is, we have no idea. The hockey game went fine, McLinebacker. It was really fun. We have no idea. And they're already like, well, that's it. The investigation into Hunter needs to be dropped. What? Also, they're trying to make bold claims like, well, this is why David Weiss, offered Hunter, reneged on Hunter Biden's sweet plea deal. What? First off, it says they were unaware that his sources were Russian until they arrested him. Or until 2023, I forget which one. So why would it make sense previous to that, unless your argument is that David Weiss knew that this confidential human source before they started to investigate in July of 2023, David Weiss knew that this guy was really a liar and working for the Russian government, but never spoke up and continued for an indeterminate amount of time to allow the FBI to use this guy as a CHS? That doesn't seem to make sense. So what's this really saying? If we take them at face value, this guy's a liar, and Russians gave him shit to hurt Biden. I'm not surprised every CHS we have that has contact with Russia. I'm not surprised that Russia is spreading dirt on everyone. I'm sure they talk shit on Trump. I'm sure they talk shit on Biden and on Obama and Hillary. The idea that it's like, if the Russians are giving disinformation against Biden, that proves that all accusations against Biden are bullshit is laughable. That's a laughable accusation. They're literally trying to make that argument. Well, this plea deal, a once-in-a-lifetime plea deal that the judge had to, or that the prosecutors had to admit, David Weiss's office had to admit, we've never seen a plea deal like this. That was somehow, this is what they want you to believe, somehow that was all because this guy lied and had contacts with Russia in 2023. What? The Hunter Biden laptop must be a lie because this guy lied in 2023. He never even made the accusation, according to the indictment, that the Bidens got paid this bribe until 2020. But somehow he was, as a CHS, spreading Russia disinformation about the laptop in 2019. And so the laptop's all fake. And the FBI just didn't realize it until 2024. None of it makes sense. At all. Well, the reason that David Weiss, I saw Pisco say this, Rob's like, why did these IRS whistleblowers, why were they prevented from seeing this evidence? Oh, yeah, well, they should have been allowed to see the Russian disinformation. Yeah, they should have. Because when they asked to see it, it wasn't proven to be Russian disinformation. It was information from a confidential human source that the FBI trusted and had paid for like a decade. And they wanted to see this evidence because it alleged financial impropriety, which they were investigating. And they weren't allowed to see it. So saying, we knew 4 years from now it would turn out to be Russian disinformation, or 2 years from now it would turn out to be Russian disinformation. So we were right to prevent organizations from interviewing Joe Biden, or from getting this information critical of Joe Biden. I mean, now, one area where I admit that I was wrong is, and I can explain why. I can show you the 1023 if you want. I was wrong about saying that this information came out in 2017. Now, I excuse myself for being wrong because you're led to believe that by reading the 1023. The 1023 alleges, as it's explaining this, it has footnotes. Let's see. In fact, let's see if I can find it real quick. I hate this mouse wheel I have here. And so here's the 1023. First meeting with Burisma executives, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think it's on the next page. CHS said Zilcheski asked why Burisma would play this money. subsequent calls, 2016, 2017 call. We'll just start like here. Zlochevsky stated that Shokin had already been fired and no investigation is currently going on and nobody can find out about his financial dealings with the Bidens. The CHS stated, I hope you have some backup of your words, namely that Zlochevsky is forced to pay the Bidens. Zlochevsky replied he has many text messages and recordings that show that he was coerced to make such payments. See subsequent reporting on 6/29/2020. CHS told many legal differences when he voluntarily made payments or was forced. CHS reported it didn't want to get involved in any such matters. Note, see previous CHS report dated 3/1/2017, Serial 7, wherein CHS reported foregoing instead of the call took place between 2/27/2017. At the time, CHS stated that Zlochevsky briefly discussed Hunter, but the topic wasn't relevant to interest in U.S.-based petroleum business. He also reported that Vadim signed to manage Burisma and he was to travel in 2017. So there are several footnotes like that say, see the 2017 CHS report from this guy. Where I was wrong, if the indictment is correct, and this would be a weird thing to lie about for the government because it might be easy to prove, so I don't think they would lie in this way. They're claiming that, yes, there was this Smirnov guy did give a CHS in 2017, did give a report in March of 2017, but he didn't mention this bribe then. He just said there was other conversations about Burisma going on, right? It wasn't until they call him back in 2020 that he mentions the bribe. Because it says footnote C 2017, I erroneously thought that what they were saying was, in 2017 he brought this up, but we haven't seen that 1023. They haven't released it. So Pisco is right about one thing. When I debated him in front of Not So Erudite as a moderator, I did say that they knew about this alleged bribe since 2017. And that is apparently wrong. They knew about it since 2020, not 2017. So the argument I was making that they didn't investigate it in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and then into 23 is not true. It's only they didn't investigate really 20, 21, 22, 23. But you could see why I did that because they said, see the CHS report in 2017. All right, I'll be right back. I'm getting to the restroom. Then I'll be right back. I'll put my intro music on. Now, the timing of it's suspicious anyways, because it's why did they, right after sort of these reports come out, like the testimony of Tony Bobulinski, and these reports come out, now all of a sudden, right now, they're like, oh, by the way, this guy was a liar, right? And I already talked about this previously. The proof's in the pudding that they didn't investigate it. It's so funny. I don't even understand how the left could make this argument. If my big argument, which it's always been, is there is a double standard in how they approach these investigations. They always go as light as possible and ignore as much as possible when it's Trump's opponents, and then as heavy as possible when it's Trump. And the Burisma situation was another one of those. So take this 1023. It specifically, which again, even if I'm clairvoyant and can see that all of this 1023 was complete hogwash and this guy did lie, he should be charged if that's the case, don't get me wrong. Even if that's true, that doesn't affect the rest of the story at all. It'd be like if you have DNA evidence that a particular person's a killer, right? You have the DNA evidence, you have eyewitness testimony, you have, motive, all this stuff, and then you also have a confession. The confession may be the clearest cut thing, but let's say the confession turns out to be garbage. That doesn't mean that the DNA evidence doesn't apply. That's what they'll have you believe. And think about how this would work then. Like, okay, well then all you would need to do to discredit any investigation is there's a bunch of evidence that Nico Pluto committed a crime, right? And there's all this evidence, but I'm Nico's friend, so I go and I say, yeah, Nico committed that crime. He told me we went to, Alaska, and he told me on December 13th, 2023 that he committed the crime. And then they look into it and they're like, Rob, we have physical evidence that not only were you not in Alaska or with Nico that day, you literally were on a Jumbotron at a Pittsburgh Penguins game. So we know you weren't there. We know you're lying. And I'm like, oh, shit, yeah, you're right, I'm lying. And they go, well, that's it. All charges against Nico dropped. What? Makes no sense. So the argument is, like me saying that the problem with this from the first point was that it's a double. And let me be clear. I should be more clear. And this is a legit criticism that you could make of me. I should be more clear in that sometimes in my enthusiasm in debating these things, I might not always be clear. Thank you, Headless Chicken. I appreciate it. I might not always be clear that there's not 100% proof of anything. My argument is that we see a bunch of smoke on one side that's basically never investigated. Then there's even less smoke on the other side that they investigate in insane lengths, sending spies, unlawful FISA warrants, etc. That's what's damning. Is it possible, despite all of this smoke, that maybe Joe Biden's clear? It's possible. I don't give a shit because I don't care about bringing Joe Biden down. What I care is the two-tiered system that's clearly treating these in the opposite way. With Trump and Trump-connected people, it says, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. And with the people that are his opposition, they say they're good people, so there can be no crime. So, for example, how does this prove a double standard? Well, in two ways that's quite clear. One, when we had a confidential human source named Christopher Steele that was unverified and paid for by the Hillary team, so they knew it was opposition, and sourced by a suspected Russian spy, they used that to investigate several years, including getting unlawful FISA warrants, including sending spies, etc. When there was a confidential human source that directly implicated Joe Biden, they did none of that. According to this indictment, they looked at it for 2 months. And the only thing this indictment says they did was they asked Smirnov, can you show us sort of your travel arrangements, your passport and thing like that, so we could confirm that you were at these locations, which he did not do. Maybe because he lied. But that's it. They didn't say, then we got FISA warrants, or then we sent spies, or then we checked Joe Biden's bank records, or then they didn't say any of that. Now remember, compare that to how they were running down the Christopher Steele dossier. They could never verify any of the crimes alleged in it, and yet they were traveling across the world, talking to people, getting FISA warrants, sending spies after people like Carter Page, sending honeypot schemes in the name of this woman, Azra Turk. There was this pseudonym of this attractive lady they tried to have banging, I think it was Carter Page, to try to get information out of him. Multiple times sending him. And when I bring this up, I say it's clear that they didn't investigate these allegations, at least anywhere near to the level they should. The left says, how do you know? How dare you say that? How would you know? Does anyone know how I know? You might say, well, because it was only 2 months. They could say, but 2 months is all they needed. How do I know in 2020, when this 1023 first came out, that they didn't investigate it anywhere near to the level they should have? Does anyone know how I know? It's very simple. How would I know that? It would be interesting to see if anyone... How would I know that in 2020, when they first heard these allegations, they didn't investigate them to the level, anywhere near the level that they should have? It's actually very simple. Because if they would have found out this guy was a liar. Right? If their argument now is, oh, it took us 6 months of investigating to find out this dude made all this shit up. So what changed? You really investigated hard in 2020, but somehow just missed all of this obvious evidence? right? Think about, because their narrative now is like, dude, this guy, it's so obvious. This dude didn't even have passports that he was at these places. We have messages by checking his messages that he clearly didn't meet these people before 2017. Why didn't they check into any of that stuff in 2020? They didn't think maybe we should check this guy's text messages. Maybe we should check his travel arrangements. They didn't think about that in 2020. But I'm supposed to, but trust us, we investigated it thoroughly. You didn't even do that bare minimum. So how could you say they investigated thoroughly in 2020? This isn't like, oh, something new came up. Someone told us this. This is literally normal shit that these investigators would be doing. Checking your messages, checking your passport. So it's clear they didn't do any of that in 2020. Now compare that to how they investigated the confidential human sources going after Trump. They literally broke the law in their zeal to bring down Trump. So that's double standard number one. Double standard number two is even clearer. Why didn't Christopher Steele get indicted? So confidential human sources that lie, we now charge with crimes. Unless they're the ones that lied against Trump. But Rob, Christopher Steele was just reporting on things that he heard. No, he directly lied to the FBI. It's proven. He told them quite clearly, no, I didn't go to the press. I didn't talk to them. And he did. He lied. Why isn't he charged? In fact, the FBI said, well, we're no longer going to work with you because you lied to us. They admit it. Why wasn't he charged? Oh, now again, the standard is, it just so happens we've changed the standard. It's only every time it's like, well, if Trump's team or someone that seemed to benefit Trump did something, we charge them. That's the new standard. But then it goes right back to the old standard once it's someone that was harming Trump or his team. No, that's different. What about Rodney Jaffe, who made up the whole Alpha Bank story? Lied. He get charged? Nope. Huh. The only one that did get charged was Igor Danchenko. And he got charged for just lying about who one of his sources was, which, of course, the D.C. jury let him off the hook. Now, I do think it's worth pulling this up. Pisco plays this clip, and like, I'll let the clip play for itself. From when I debated him on Erudite's channel, 6 minutes, 42 seconds, we'll let it play. And look what he says. Only Rob could spin the shattering of the Burisma hoax he's been hawking as vindication. No contrition, no introspection, pure doubling down. Take a look at this clip from a conversation he and I had in September in 2023 about the Burisma hoax. Now, this is the clip that he's chosen, not me. So you're expecting, like, oh boy, Rob's going to say some really crazy shit here that's completely debunked, and it's going to make Rob look really bad. Who knows? Could happen. I don't remember everything I've always said. But one of the things is when you're like me and you're not bad faith and you're trying your best to just be honest and be authentic, very rarely do I find myself being caught in something completely ridiculous because I'm not a bullshitter like Pisco. I'm never going to be forced to say, actually, when this guy says, I spoke in 2015 and 16 while Joe Biden was vice president. What he really meant was I spoke in 2017 when Biden wasn't vice president. You won't hear me say shit like that. That's how Pisco talks. Because when you're bad faith, those are the sorts of arguments. Actually, that video that shows Jamal Bowman not trying to get out the door, the best explanation is he was still trying to get out the door. Like, that's the sort of shit when you're bad faith that you end up having to try to defend. So let's hear the clip that Pisco chose that's showing that I have no contrition, that the hoax has been shattered. I'm just doubling down. Okay? It's from 2023. Let's hear it. Let me put my headphones on so I can hear it. Makes sense. Same hat. I love it.
Evidence that investigation happened, and the investigation that we later get, we know for a fact that they didn't talk to people like Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that was fired. We know that they barely talked to Onyshenko. They didn't subpoena bank records or things like that. So it was an investigation in name only.
Yeah, so in response to that, one, it's really hard to determine the propriety or...
No, first off, what I was just saying there, clearly it's clipped. And by the way, I'm not saying this is shady. If you're clipping something, even if it's 7 minutes, you're going to probably begin in the middle of something and end in the middle of something. You could do it in a shady way, but I'm not saying this is shady. Like, but you could hear what I'm saying there is it was an investigation in name only. They didn't interview key witnesses like Onyshenko. They didn't subpoena Biden's bank records. They didn't interview Hunter Biden. They didn't interview Joe Biden. They didn't interview Devin Archer at the time. They didn't, Anyways, we'll see what he says.
Impropriety of the start of investigation if we don't know the date in which the investigation started. We know that there was an investigation. We know that there was an investigation specifically into Giuliani's claims, and we know that the FBI was having these discussions and it was taking the time to write down this contact who had a conversation with Zlochevsky and presumably analyze it. And so I don't have information about the FBI's internal workings, which is frustrating. One of the reasons why it would be nice for us if there was an Inspector General investigation into what occurred, when the investigation opened, all that stuff. But unfortunately, the FBI just doesn't comment on ongoing,
So what he's saying, he's talking about the 1023 specifically. He says, well, we don't know. We know that they looked into it, but we don't know what they did and how long. Well, now we do, according to them. They looked into it for 2 months. That's their claim, from June to August. Now, they don't say exactly what they do, but that's what they said, 2 months. What we most likely still know is they didn't impanel a grand jury to subpoena bank records of the Bidens. They didn't interview Hunter Biden. They didn't interview Joe Biden. They didn't interview Devin Archer at the time. They didn't interview any of the people in Ukraine, like, Zlochevsky. They didn't do any of that. We know that. Well, at least we think we do. It would be shocking to find out if they kept under the wraps. Actually, we did interview Joe Biden.
Failed investigations, which I think is a policy, Rob, that you probably agree with. Like, do you think the FBI and the Department of Justice should be announcing every time they're opening an investigation into Joe Biden at that time? And so if you're saying that you're lacking evidence into the basic parameters of when the investigation started, I think it's a little rich to say that you know that there was a double standard in the investigation. On to the specific claims of you didn't talk to Viktor Shokin, you didn't talk to Onyshenko. These people have no credibility. Onyshenko was approached in 2016, which I believe.
Now what he's saying is, as far as they didn't talk to the fired prosecutor and stuff, they have no credibility. Now, isn't this interesting? Anytime it comes to attacking Trump, they'll interview anyone and everyone. For example, a suspected Russian spy named Igor Dushenko being paid by Hillary Clinton is good enough for them to say, yep, we'll take their word on things. We'll go ahead and launch investigations, spies, etc. They'll interview all sorts of people. For example, they say Michael Cohen's not credible. There's all sorts of unscrupulous characters that they interview that supposedly have information that's bad for Trump. And they never say, well, they just have no credibility, so we're not going to listen to them. So when there is someone, Viktor Shokin, that's saying, look, I have evidence that actually I was investigating Burisma, and I have evidence that I was fired because Joe Biden pressured Yanukovych, Poroshenko, the then president, to fire me because I was looking into this. And you're like, well, we just don't trust him. He doesn't have credibility, so we're not even going to investigate him or talk to him. It's nonsense.
It corresponds with the sort of timeline that you want. And the Department of Justice goes so far as to announce publicly that they don't want to have any further dealings with Onyshenko. So you guys are aware, Onyshenko is this party of regions, really just crony, Russian-aligned Ukrainian politician that no one, who has been sanctioned by the Trump Treasury Department as being a Russian propagandist, and the Department of Justice didn't talk to him. He has no credibility. Shokin has no credibility so far as the Department of Justice is concerned. The Department of Justice was one of the institutions that was pushing for Shokin's firing because he was not working with the Department of Justice attachés and the people that they trusted in Ukraine, and they stopped funding and they stopped working with Shokin. And so these are individuals that have no credibility so far as the Department of Justice is concerned. And so you saying the fact that they didn't talk to them fully enough shows corruption, I think, is a little bit delusional.
So again, it's convenient. First off, there'll be this sort of God of the Gaps type defense that will say, well, for all we know, the FBI did investigate. Well, that's why I would support an IG investigation. I look forward if we have that, and we have information of when the FBI first started these sorts of investigations, of Pisco commenting if it turns out that this wasn't occurring in 2017 when they had this information, because anyone would agree that this sort of allegation, given what we publicly...
That's where I'm wrong. The allegation allegedly didn't come until 2020 now. So I'm still right that they didn't investigate it in 2020, and if they weren't, then it looks like they did an investigation in name only, or it was very poor, the investigation. Certainly not up to the standards of the investigations they had when confidential human sources that were connected to Russians were making accusations of Trump. But again, I've already explained previously, the footnote says that they met with him in March of 2017, and Pisco agreed with me, if not in this debate, a different debate, that it looked like that's when they were saying these allegations occurred. Now it's saying that the allegations didn't occur in 2020. So it does changes that it's, well, they didn't investigate it in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. It now changes they didn't investigate that CHS credibly or in a thorough manner in 2020, 2021, 2022, and then the first half of 2023. So I will admit to being wrong in that particular section, but okay.
know that Joe Biden did with this quid pro quo would warrant an investigation, a very serious one. Second, as Pisco's admitted to me in a prior talk, it appears evident that there wouldn't have been any subpoenaing of bank records of someone like Joe Biden, because that sort of grand jury testimony wouldn't necessarily be something that would be clandestine, that wouldn't be under lock and key. So it seems evident that there hasn't been any bank records of Joe Biden's or anything like that investigated. This is incredibly problematic when you see that Zlochevsky says here that the way that he paid the Bidens was so convoluted that it would take them 10 years of investigations to be able to trace the money trail to how it came. And so what we see now is Democrats fighting tooth and nail, and the IRS whistleblowers alleging that they were specifically told that they couldn't use Joe Biden's name, look at the information on the laptop, run connections to possibilities of Biden family members and money they were getting through these sorts of business dealings. So it's evident that there was a double standard in how this was approached. Now, when it comes to the specifics here, remember what we're talking about. It's always interesting to me to see who the FBI deems as credible, the FBI and the DOJ deems as credible or not. Remember, the disinformation from the Hillary Clinton Russian national was a suspected Russian spy by the name of Igor Dushenko. When it comes to investigating or spying on Trump, there are no people that are unscrupulous enough that the FBI is not willing to hear out. The FBI shouldn't be saying when people are alleging criminal wrongdoing of Joe Biden, well, we just don't trust him, so we're not even going to talk to him. We even have interviews by Tony Bobulinski that says he had all sorts of information he gave to the FBI. They talked to him once and never contacted him again. So what happens is the FBI is able to go, we don't trust any of the people making claims against Joe Biden, even when we see that the public evidence that we have matches up with what they're suggesting. And then they say, see, there's no evidence because we didn't even talk to the people alleging the wrongdoing because we don't trust them.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the other worlds that you live in, if Rob is correct. The other world that you live in is Bill Barr and his Department of Justice are actively scuttling this investigation into Hunter Biden, Burisma, and into Joe Biden. You have to believe that.
Well, I do believe that. And here's the thing. Let's say that this new impeachment inquiry brings up evidence, even more evidence of alleged wrongdoing. Wouldn't that speak to my claim that, well, then you were wrong and it turns out that there wasn't an adequate investigation previously?
Depends on what information you're talking about from the inquiry. If the inquiry relates to new claims, if the inquiry relates to claims of obstruction by the Department of Justice under Joe Biden, of course that wouldn't speak to your claims of double standards under Bill Barr. You think they're both corrupt, but they would be, Bill Barr can't investigate the Joe Biden Justice Department in 2019, obviously. So it depends on what the claims are, whether or not it speaks to.
You understand the argument I'm making there. So if the argument is, oh, well, here's the deal. All of this was investigated. Rob's wrong. It was all investigated. Well, then if we have a further investigation from the House impeachment inquiry and it comes up with new evidence, then when we say, oh, it looks like they didn't thoroughly investigate this back in the day. And he's saying, well, not if the accusations of obstruction of the Biden administration, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about accusations against Biden himself, an impropriety in the Burisma scandal.
To your claims about double standards of the DOJ in 2018, 2019, the timelines matter, and the allegations' substantive components matter, and when they occurred matter. So obviously, I'd have to, analyze that based on whatever hypothetical you want to present me and the timeline of those hypotheticals or the actual stuff.
So again,
do we know the length of time between when? So one thing that I want to understand is, okay, so we don't have an investigation start date. When did we become aware though that an investigation? Because there's 3. So what was the first one that was publicly made aware? What is the earliest date we have?
So in 2019, just to give you guys some background, erudite, there start to be little whispers that occur of something going on with Giuliani in Ukraine. Lutsenko is giving these interviews to The Hill. Lutsenko is the prosecutor general that, after an interim prosecutor general that occurs after Shokin is fired, which is the one that all this whole mess is about. Lutsenko gives an interview where he seems to accuse the State Department of impropriety, and what is later revealed is there was a huge push from Giuliani and his associates to announce these kind of allegations of Burisma as against Joe Biden, and that this was occurring throughout 2019. And so there's reporting, I believe in the fall of 2019, officially by people who have sources, that the Department of Justice had opened up several pathways to vet Giuliani's claim. I can bring up that article in a second, but essentially by the end of, at the very least, I think November of 2019, there's reporting that the Department of Justice has created particular investigatory units to vet Giuliani's claims. So that would be the latest that an investigation occurred. And obviously the FD 1023 with the person, the source, that occurred throughout the relationship with the source. And I'm assuming that the FBI and DOJ investigated that, and I think they should have.
What steps?
That would be.
Do you agree with that, Rob? Just make sure about the dates. Do you agree that 2019 is when
Yeah, 2019. Right, 2019. Yeah.
And just confirming dates again. Sorry, I'm going to be the big dumb down here. But FD 1023 was the relationship and the nature that Zlochevsky is worried about. Was that specifically occurring? Was the payments in 2017? Is that what he's claiming, or is that when he claims he reported to the FBI?
These would have been in 2015 and 2016, I believe, which is when the payments occurred, when the firing occurred. That's my understanding. Keep in mind also, and Zlochevsky denies this and says that it didn't happen at a later time. Obviously, you can say, well, you're going to believe him then, or you're going to believe him now. That's a question for you for y'all to have, whether or not which statement is more credible. But yes, in 15, 16, that's when I think the payments alleged occurred.
So let's talk about real quick what he said there that Zlochevsky. So what Zlochevsky's admitting in a private conversation to someone he trusts, a business associate that he's unaware is basically operating as a source for the FBI. He says, yeah, we want Shokin fired. Yeah, we paid Joe and Hunter Biden to have him fired. And this conversation happens 3 times, right? It happens in 2015, it happens in 2016, and it happens in 2019. And the confidential human source is reporting contemporaneously, at least in 2017, and then again in 2019. They wanted Shokin fired. They said they paid the Biden.
Okay, so here's where I'm wrong. It looked as though, because they were saying the confidential human source was talking to the FBI, that he was telling them contemporaneously. The accusation is now he wasn't telling them contemporaneously. And it definitely takes the veracity out of the argument if this guy is saying now in 2020, I had these conversations in 2015, 2016, 2017, and I talked to the FBI in 2017, but I didn't tell you about these conversations. I, as just someone who's being completely honest with you, find it to be incredibly skeptical. Is that the real I'm really important? Are you out of your bubble today? Would you like to call in? I'm really important. No, leave him call in. I'd love to talk to IRI. Good friend of the show. Avoids debates with me because I'm quoting. He likes to stay in his bubble. So feel free, call in. I'm really important. Would love to speak to you. It'll be fun like it always is. Anyways, so I am absolutely wrong here, according to what we're now hearing. Now, again, anyone could say anything in their defense. But I'm just saying, if the indictment as is written, if it is true that this guy is claiming, oh, by the way, in 2020, I'm telling you that this conversation happened in 2016, 2017, but he never told them contemporaneously. Look, and if you might dispute me, if you're like a big Trumper, you might say, well, not necessarily. Think of it this way. How do you feel when you hear like Christine Blasey Ford say, oh, by the way, Brett Kavanaugh assaulted me, but she never told anyone at the time? Like, you automatically, that doesn't mean she's necessarily lying, but you're like, yeah, that makes it tough to believe. Same here. Exact same here. So I think the fact that, now, I've already gone through why on the 1023 that was released to us in July of 2023, how the footnote said they talked to him about this stuff in 2017. And it was sort of, there was some redaction in that. But it looks like they talked to, what they're trying to say is we talked to him, but he didn't tell us this. So I am incorrect in my reading of that, even though I don't think it was malicious, and I've shown why. And even Pisco agreed with me while we were having this debate that, yeah, it looks like the allegation is this confidential human source said this in 2017. If he didn't, I do think that puts a lot more doubt on his claim. However, when it comes to when it comes to that timeline, what I'm saying, these payments card, this section absolutely is a section that does not look good for me continuing to defend this argument, which I'm not, right? If there is doubt placed on this claim, then the idea that these payments definitely occurred in 2015, 16, and 17 goes out the window. I am absolutely willing to concede that with the level of evidence, that would be something that I would be willing to say, yeah, if this dude's bullshitting us about stuff, that's significant. And if he didn't tell us at the time, I'm going to put doubt on it. Absolutely willing to do that. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't investigate, because based on the standard they set forth, they had plenty of reasons to doubt the confidential human source of Christopher Steele. And instead of saying, well, we think this is bullshit, we're not going to do anything, they set the standard that they were going to start one of the biggest investigations in the history of the FBI, including using illegal FISA warrants, using confidential human sources like Stephen Halper to physically go and spy on people in Trump's campaign, to have people like James Comey literally listen in to Trump and other people. There was a meeting, for example, it wasn't Comey specifically, but there was one agent that sits in on this meeting with Trump and Chris Christie and someone else, and he was told to listen to anything that could trigger like any evidence in the Russia collusion investigation. So they're literally listening in to Trump, trying to find something he's saying to try to indict him or other people, while they're telling Trump to his face, nah, you're not a target of the investigation. Yeah, I'm like in this specific section, I have no problem admitting, like, yeah, it looks like if we accept the information now, that I would say, wait a minute, Rob, is this stuff definitive as you're saying here? No.
Biden's right. That's a conversation that he's having in private with people that he thinks he's trusting, right? The conversation where he denies it is two reporters in public. Yes, Pisco. It is true that he denied being involved in a criminal conspiracy in public, but when he was in private talking to what he thought were friends and associates, he was telling a different story. So I put zero credibility in his public denial.
But you do put a lot of credibility in Shokin and Onyshenko, who are these, in my opinion, provably corrupt individuals, and their claims related to substantive corruption and related to, that I guess that there's impropriety in the firing.
Well, Onyshenko, at least
there's a very clear interest there. That doesn't stop you from believing them. I've heard you say like in one of your streams, you think Shokin's a good guy. Mm-hmm. And so like I don't understand why the self-serving testimony of these individuals, people who are alleged to be Russian propagandists by the Trump administration, mm-hmm. and Shokin himself, why you credit that?
That's it. That's the clip. That's the clip that Pisco took to show that ultimately to bring me down. And how, did anybody see anything really in there? Oh boy, I'm really important didn't join? What a bummer. I know for sure. Wow, that would have been great. All right, still listening? Wow. Man, come on. Pull whose stream up? Oh, I'm really important. Hey, IRI, you streaming me now? Your audience? Hi. Hi, IRI's audience, if you're listening to me. I'd be happy to talk to IRI about this right now. He can call it right now. We can do it in any format that he wants. Right? If you're listening and you're on IRI's stream and you're listening to him, you might want to ask yourself why the political commentator that you listen to is too much of a coward to actually respond to the person that he's talking about on stream right now. He has the opportunity right now. So he could literally call in. No problem. But he won't. And you don't know this because IRI seems like a likable guy. You maybe listen to him because you think that like he's likable and he seems like a sensible. But the truth is, IRI knows that he gets wrecked by me. He knows it. That's why he has said publicly that he doesn't want to debate me. He likes to stay in his bubble. He wants to stay in his bubble because he knows his bubble will burst if he goes outside. So, but thanks, RI, for tuning in for a second to get a little content. No problem. And the other thing is, like, I'm not like them. Like, when, for example, I know the nature of this game. There is a sort of gamesmanship to it and tribalism to it. And so when my side loses, they're going to gloat and rub it in, which is understandable, actually. I don't mind it. Now, I didn't really do that. The problem is my side never wins. Like, I guess the 2016 election, other than that, what do we have? Nothing. None of the corruption ever gets dealt with. The people I want to win elections never win elections. Constant source of disappointment. It's the way it is. That's just it's honest. And I didn't rub it in really in 2016, but I also didn't mind it. I didn't mind the people that did then, and I don't mind the people that have been rubbing it in on me. I just don't know. I think what you wanted, you know how like in 2016, what's the shit you like if you're a Trump supporter? What's the shit you like to see in 2016, right? You like seeing the people, like the tears flowing and all that. Same with, if you're a Trump hater, that's what you want to see. You want to see meltdowns. I melt down more arguing about like Jabal Bowman than I do like, Trump laws, whatever, right? I mean, if you don't believe me, you can go back and look at the 2020 election night. I was streaming all night. You go back and look at the 2022 election. I don't know. I mean, that's, if people get enjoyment out of seeing me be like, well, as I predicted, lost again. What can I do to get better to help win next time? If that's people going, yeah, glad I could help you with your content. So, if you're still listening, all right, glad I could help. Apparently C-SPAN's on right now, or not on right now, so you don't have anything to talk about other than to come on. Yeah, the Young Turk, right, like those, so I don't know. That's just how I feel, but I don't mind. Nah, he's not going to debate. He knows the score. So whatever. But that was it. That was Pisco's big takedown of me. I don't give a shit at all, Aftershock. He can talk shit all he wants. It's fine. All you have to know is this. If he wants to talk to me, he can come talk to me. If he has something that he wants to get off his chest, the invitation's open. He knows where my Discord's at. He can do it easily. He knows I'm streaming right now. In fact, the title of my stream, I believe, is something to the effect of trying to take lefty debates, right? So he knows how to do it. He won't do it because he knows. Family's doing very well, Ninja. Thank you. So, but that's it. I don't know what else to say about the CHS stuff. I'll try to look into more of it as it comes out. I also want to read the complete transcript of Tony Bobulinski because now the talking points are out, right? It's Russiagate 2.0. everything that's ever been said about Hunter Biden's a lie. He's never smoked crack. He's never been with a hooker. The laptop's real or isn't real. All the pictures are fake. The idea that he was an illegitimate father to his daughter, all of it's fake. And by the way, while we're going at it, the border's completely secure. The economy's great. Ukraine's kicking ass. The money's never been wasted. Inflation is down. Joe Biden doesn't have dementia. He's the smartest guy that's ever existed because they charged the CHS, right? That's it. Everything you've ever heard negative about anyone with the last name Biden is a lie because they charged this confidential human source. That's going to be their argument, and it'll play to that audience. That's what they do. Remember when I told you, like, this is what they do. The Her report comes out. No one talked about it. And Pisco keeps saying, yeah, I talked about it. I talked about it. He didn't. He did not. He talked about it in general. He went over parts of it on stream, but he did not get to the part where he told me that the smoking gun evidence against Trump was that he said on tape that he had classified documents in front of a writer. And now we have Joe Biden doing that. What do you think about that? He still says, haven't got to that part yet. 14, 15 days on, can't comment. What else you guys want to talk about? I do want to be done by 11, but if someone has other things they'd like to talk about, if you're a lefty out there and you want to debate on this or any other topic, feel free to call in. The offer isn't just I'm really important. If you're going to blatantly violate terms of service or just be a troll, we'll boot you right off. But I'm willing to listen to hear you out. Anything you want to say? You want me to talk about the Constitution? Great. Did I see Jon Stewart's take on Tucker in Russia? Just little clips of it. Well, I'll be honest. Tucker goes a little far. Like, all right, so let me first say I haven't seen all of Jon Stewart's claims, so I'm going to intuit what I think he's trying to say, which is like, just because you have valid criticisms of how the United States is being run, you shouldn't pretend that it's worse than every country in the world. Like, I'm at this open air market in Zimbabwe, and look how fresh their bananas are. More fresh than the bananas in the United States. Like, okay, right? So let me speak to two things. The literal claims that Tucker's making, and then the sort of greater story that Tucker's telling. I think the literal claims are probably self-evidentiary dumb. Because when you say, well, look how cheap these groceries are here, that's in US dollars, which are going to be valued higher than Russia's currency. I did watch Mike Benz on Tucker. I've talked about that a lot. Whatever. Oh, look, the old Aldi's grocery cart where you put the quarter in and then they lock in, Yeah, we got that in my town too. And it's clean. Okay, yeah, but you can find grocery stores, like if you go to a Wegmans or a Publix, there's a lot of them that are really clean, in many areas. So I get it. I get that sort of like, okay. But the greater context of what Tucker's talking about is he's talking about like, you go into the supermarket and everything's behind lock and key in certain markets here in the United States, certain cities. Or there's refuse on the street outside, and homeless people on the street, and drug use, and there's, cars are being jacked into and stuff. And even though we consider Russia a poorer country, we don't see that. Now, you could say, but Tucker didn't go to every part of Russia. Maybe there were parts of Russia like that. Sure, it could be, right? But in general, the argument Tucker's trying to make is, for being the greatest country in the world, we certainly don't look like it in many aspects. We have the biggest economy. We have the biggest cultural influencers. So why can't we why does it seem like the little shit's falling apart? The subways are falling apart. The public institutions are falling apart. You can't safely go shop for groceries anymore. Everything's behind lock and key. Like, why is that? And that's a valid point. It really is. I think, Now, again, I'm not going to go so far as to say, well, then I would rather live in Russia. And the irony is, I know what Jon Stewart said was, that mess is the price of freedom. unironically true to some extent, but it's also an admission that it's a conscious effort. Todd Sullivan. I don't know what else to say. I can't sit here all night and like talk through intermediaries to I'm really important. If he wants to call in, he could call in. He doesn't want to debate. He just wants to have I don't know what that means. What does that mean? How does he define the word debate? To me, debate means that you have a disagreement and hash it out in a civilized way. The fact that he doesn't want to have a debate, but he wants to have a conversation means that I have to agree with him? I'm not going to do that. If he wants to call in and talk about what he sees as the news that he thinks is something worth to talk about, and I want to rebut that, then so be it. If he's going to gatekeep by saying it has to be called one thing or another, I have no interest in talking to him. He could call in. If he doesn't like the way it's going, then he can leave. That's it. But the Arena List was a show I had called The Arena, and that's every guest that was on The Arena. So whether they be right-wing, left-wing, I was the moderator of that show, and I thought it'd be cool to keep a record of everyone who participated with the show. So that's all it is. Not like a hit list or anything like that. Yeah, that's all. I thought it was cool. If we ever did the show long enough, we were going to plan to actually send little plaques out to everyone to their home address if they wanted them, to say that they were a member on the show. But unfortunately, bring back the Arena. I don't know if I have time. Maybe like once a month. I thought American Nacho was doing it or something like that. I'll be honest. Here's the dirty little secret. I don't like moderating that much. I think I'm really good at it, but I just don't like it. I like debating, and it frustrates the shit out of me when we have a right-wingers and left-wingers, and I obviously side with the right-wingers, and I'm like, shit, I would say this, this, and this. That's true. What's up, cowboy? So yeah, that was my thoughts on the, Jon Stewart's can be funny, and I'm not going to lie. When I was young, I'm so old, I remember Craig Kilborn on The Daily Show, and I kind of liked it then. And I thought Jon Stewart was probably funnier. But I started to realize as I got older that Jon Stewart was sort of a hack and a shill and hid behind the I'm a comedian moniker. And he ruined a lot of people and how they think. Yeah, most people don't want to debate me, Sneed. So it is what it is. Which is one of the reasons I debate Pisco so much. At least he'll debate me. I don't want to debate. He'll have a conversation, but he's not going to debate. Yeah, and just because you're a schmuck in some ways doesn't mean you can't be cool in other ways. He did fight hardly for 9/11 first responders. Yeah. Of course he's not, Nico. I'm done talking about it. I absolutely know he's not coming. I absolutely know it. And listen, I would have never said this except he said it publicly. I reached out to him at one point, over a year ago. I was like, hey, man, you want to talk about this? And he said, nah, man, I like staying in my bubble. Okay? And then he said it publicly. Someone asked him, you going to debate Rob Noerr? He said, no, I'm going to stay in my bubble. So I was like, okay. I've been on panels with him since. It does not go well for him. He knows. I just don't care about it. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't wish him ill. You don't have to debate me. I'm not entitled to people debating me. That's perfectly fine. But he knows the reason he doesn't want to do it. Like, Sam Cedar doesn't want to debate me. Not because Sam Cedar thinks Rob Noerr will crush me. Because Sam Cedar's like, Rob who? Yeah, I'm good, man. Different reason to not want to debate me, right? He has no clue who I am. I'm basically a nobody, right? Yeah, I'd debate BPF again. Sure. I don't mind it at all. Right? But I'm just telling you, in my opinion, I think it's quite evident IRI doesn't want to debate me because he knows what happens every time he debates me and he don't want to go through it again. And it's not that I'm overly rude or anything. He said he gets smacked around. So I don't want to debate. That's it. That's why when he was on a panel with me, he just tried to meme his way through it because he knew what was going to happen. It was on that kick or keep. All right, man. So whatever. Anything else people wanted to talk about? I know it's kind of a boring show. I wish someone would have called in to debate. But one thing I could talk about is, so it does look like I have confirmation to be on Tim Pool's show. It looks like it's going to be on the 1st, but there is a slight chance if there is some movement of other people, that it will be on March 15th instead of March 1st. But one of the things they wanted to ask me was, they want to have another guest on when I'm on, and asked, do I have any suggestions? And would I prefer the guest be someone that agrees with me or disagrees? And I would heavily prefer it be someone I disagree with. Like, if I'm going on a show in front of a bigger audience, I want to debate. That's what I do. That's what I like. Thank you. Thank you for the congrats. That's what I want to do. I'd rather debate someone. You know? That doesn't mean I'm going to be like, oh, shucks, it's people I agree with, Now I'm going to have a bad time. No, I'll be fine. I can have a show with people I agree with, no problem. So, I thought it'd be interesting to ask you, who are some people you would like to see me debate? Does anyone have any suggestions? Because they asked for suggestions, and, I threw some out. In general, there are two types of people I want to debate. Well, first is an overarching. I want to debate people that are interested in things I'm interested in, right? So I'm not saying I want to debate someone who's a flat earther. I really have no interest in that. Imaginarium says the Krasensteins. That's who I said. That's who I would love to debate. John Burke to go on with me? No, thank. John Burke going on with me would just be him and Tim arguing with each other. I want to debate people that, for selfish reasons, the reason for that is people that have a bigger following, because I want to get my name out there, because I think I'm good and I'm a good debater. So I would love to debate someone who has a huge chance. Like, debating someone like Hassan would be phenomenal. It's not going to happen, but that would be great. Put him in his place would be chef's kiss, because he has a big channel. And the other type of people I want to debate are the people that are really good at it, even if they're not a huge channel. Now, preferably it's someone that's both, that has a huge channel and is really good at it. But that's what I would like to do. Destiny would be someone that would be okay to debate. I don't know that that'll be something. He's been on a lot, so I don't know if they'd be interested in that. I said the Krasenstein brothers. I think that they have a big following on X, and I've had back and forth with them on X, and they did a debate on that Ian moderated, so I'd be happy. And they, by the way, if somehow you see, if this gets clipped, Krasenstein brothers, I'm calling you out. I don't mean this in a mean way, but I'd love to go on Tim Pool's show. I could be cordial. I think I'm fun. I think even when I crush you in the debate, you'll say, that's a good guy. He's fun to hang out with. So, and you could both come, Krasensteins. You could both come. And if you have any cousins or nephews or nieces or aunts or uncles or parents that you want to bring to help you in the debate, that's cool too. I don't care. It could be 7-on-1, 8-on-1. It don't matter to me, as long as I get some time to speak. But I would love to debate you all on issues of Russia collusion, corruption, double standards, things like that. You seem to weigh into it heavily, particularly the Burisma scandal. You've weighed in heavily. Would love to talk about it. It's in the news. So, yeah. If the Krasenstein brothers would be interested, I'd love to debate them, because I've sort of argued with them back and forth, and they meet that criteria if they're a bigger channel, and they're not incompetent. I think they're partisan, and, but they're not incompetent. They could debate, so that meets both my criteria. I'd love to debate like Hassan or Cenk. I think Cenk Uyghur would be fun to debate. David Pakman, Sam Cedar, they'd be fun to debate. I would love to do that. Sitch don't want to talk. They don't want to talk anymore. But was there anyone I didn't mention that you thought of? I'd love to debate Philip Bump from the Washington Post, who's always like, what? The Bidens didn't do anything. That would be great. He's basically like a CIA defender. Alex Jones. I would debate Alex Jones, but I would just be like, I think you're great. I think you're funny. So I don't know what we would disagree on. Who are people I would like to be on the show with? Jim Bob? I would debate. Again, Jim Bob and me are going to agree on most things. And remember, one of the criteria I had of the people I really want to debate are those that are interested in the topics that I like. So like corruption, double standards. I don't think Jim Bob would disagree with me on that. There are certainly things me and Jim Bob would probably disagree with on, but we'd probably agree on that. Ben Shapiro is probably going to agree with 60 to 70% of me, but I would debate him. But like, I don't know. So the people I said that I would like to do a show with would be cool to do a show with Trump, right? If they get Trump as a guest on with me, that'd be all right. Vivek, he's done Tim Pool's show several times. I would love that. I would absolutely love to sit there and talk to Vivek. Mike Benz, who there might be a chance of that happening, of me talking with Mike Benz. Do a show with Econo Boy. Yeah, but Econo Boy, in the two criteria, if I'm going on Tim Pool's show, that I don't know if you heard this, that I would like to debate someone on, would be one that has a really big following. You don't have that. And the other would be someone that's really good at debating the topic that I'm interested in that would disagree with me, which is sort of the corruption and double standards. I don't think that's you, and I'm not saying that to be rude, but if it was we're having an economic debate, absolutely. I would say you would absolutely meet that criteria. But I don't know that you meet that criteria in the idea of like, oh, we're going to do a deep dive on the Burisma debate. Do you disagree with me, Econo Boy? Because if you do, I would love to have that debate with you. We don't have to do it on Tim Pool's show. We can do it anytime you like. But I don't know that you would necessarily say that's your area of interest or forte. H3H3, yeah, I would debate him. Kyle Kalinske, I would debate him. Absolutely. But I'll debate anyone. I will. Mike Benz, I might get a chance to talk to here in the near future. I think that would be amazing. If you haven't watched it, I think the Mike Benz interview on Tucker Carlson, it's episode 75 on Tucker Carlson's X show. I think that it's one of the most important interviews you'll ever see. I really do think it's that important. And we might go over it tomorrow. I have to see how much time I have tomorrow. By the way, people I would like to talk to, not necessarily on Tim Pool's show. Good Logic would be one. Rakita Law would be one. Viva Frey, I would love to talk to, whether it be on Tim Pool or otherwise. I would love to talk to Jimmy Dore, Aaron Mattei, Matt Tiabi, Michael Schellenberger. I think all of those people would be fun. I forgot all about Kyle. It wasn't even someone on my radar. Who do I not want to debate? Very few people. I don't want to debate anyone that's laughably bad, especially on Tim Pool's show. I don't think that does anyone any good. I don't want to debate anyone that I've had an interaction with as such that it's going to obviously not be fruitful and probably just end up for trouble for me and my channel. So I'm not going to get any names, but suffice it to say there are many people that talk about gender ideology that it seems like every time I get into a panel with them, my channel gets mass reported and I get things hacked and stuff like that. And none of them are particularly enlightened anyways, so I'm not missing much. Richard Spencer, I've debated. I guess I would debate him on Tim Pool's show, but I don't know the utility of that. But I have debated Richard Spencer. Yeah, right, Aftershock. Mm-hmm. Luke Grabowski, I don't know him very well, but I'm trying to think if there's any other people that I don't want to debate. I hesitate to even say this because it's going to just lead to bullshit trauma I don't want to talk about. I don't want to debate Vaush right now. I really want to debate Vaush, but I don't want to debate him right now because of the accusations that he's facing. He could deal with those accusations. Just stew in that. You go ahead and stew in that, Vaush. I don't want to help him overcome those accusations by moving on. No thanks. You go ahead and stew in that, Vaush. That's how I feel. Find it grotesque and, Lance from the Surfs would be fine. I forgot about him until Aftershock mentioned. That would be fine. I'd do that. But, it's hard to think of people. honestly thought it was a joke, the Vaush stuff. I got to be honest. I thought it was a joke that he set it up to get everyone, like, it was fake. But it doesn't look like that. But whatever. A Gish Gallop, yeah. Funny, good stuff. So, whatever. Yeah, he admitted it. I mean, I don't know. I guess he could come out 2 months from now and be like, it was all bullshit. Look at all the clicks I got. I don't know. I don't care. If I'm being totally honest with you, and you might not like to hear this, right? Like, listen. Animated horse pornography and animated depictions of children are grotesque. I will not defend them. I think it probably says a lot about your psychology, particularly when you're making comments that you're supposedly in jest or elsewhere talking about age of consent and things like that. Starts to add up and not look good for you. However, it's not the same as having real stuff, which is clearly, no matter how disgusting you think having the animated stuff is, real stuff is unforgivable. There is no, that's it. There is no debate on that. Right? So that's clearly worse. And having said that, and this might not be a popular take, I find Vaush's comments about shooting at Patriot Prayer people worse than his porn folder being popped up on screen. To me, I find that more morally grotesque. That's just me. So it is not as if I'm shocked. Yeah, 58 minutes. Thanks, Nico Pluto. It's not as if I'm shocked that there would be moral quandaries about, Does Dylan still debate? I don't know. I saw the Tiffany Haynard's thing, yeah. Would I do the whatever podcast? I don't know what I would add to it. I don't have hot takes on that shit. Like, yeah, porn's bad. You shouldn't do porn. You shouldn't do OnlyFans. The traditional family structure is good. You should try to find a wife, or if you're a woman, a husband that you love and that you have children with. And it's the most important thing you could ever do in your life. But I don't know what I have to add other than, like, I'm not going to go on there and be particularly spicy like, oh, OnlyFans, oh, you're ashamed the rest of your life. It's not really my style. So, I don't know. I would probably politely decline. I would say, thanks for thinking of me, but no. It would probably help my channel grow, I guess, but I don't know what I would say. So, that's how I feel. I think, Andrew from the Crucible, Andrew Wilson, is really the types of things he's interested in talking to really goes in line with what they're talking, whatever. So it makes sense. Same with Fresh and Fit. Someone asked me before if I would do that. No, probably not. I don't know. I mean, hypothetically, my rule of thumb is I try to be open to debating anyone, at least initially. If there's an interaction that occurs that shows that it's not worth my time, either because you're so bad faith or you're so dumb or it's just an annoyance or something like that, then some people I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it anymore. But that's very few people. So hypothetically I could be talked into it, but I would warn them and be like, I don't think I'm probably going to be pretty milquetoast compared to most of your guests. I don't know. But it is what it is. Yeah, Andrew's fun. He's a good guy. Yeah, I agree. I don't anticipate FBI doing anything to Haynard. Zen's terrible. I agree. I don't know anyone could even listen. I like Zen too. I do. I can't remember. This was probably over a year ago. One of my favorite debates that I saw just for pure entertainment value and being kind of more impressed than I expected. Zen debating someone, I can't even remember who it was, on an abortion debate. And I thought he cleaned up so clean. Obviously, I was very impressed. It was enjoyable. Adam from PBD. What's PBD? I don't know what that is. Austin Peterson, I would love to talk to. Yeah. But like Viva Frey and Rakita Law, I would love to talk to him. Good logic. I've debated Richard Spencer, but I would debate him again. That's fine. I kind of feel bad for Richard in my debate with him, though not really, because I only had one agenda when I was talking to Richard Spencer, and that was... No, it wasn't Richard Spencer Zen debating. No, I didn't see that. I wanted to get Richard Spencer to say as many times as possible that the Democratic Party represented his interest more than the Republican, which I did, which was my goal. So I'm good on that. Patrick Bet Davids. Call me that debated Charlie Kirk. Vaush debated Charlie Kirk on Tim Pool, but I already went over why I wouldn't debate him now. Maybe in the future I'll get to debate Vaush again if he's still allowed to have an online presence. Which he will be, because that's the way our society is going. So, who called me a serious person? Someone called me a serious person? Damn them. If the DNC doesn't run Biden, who would they run? Michelle said no. I wouldn't rule her out, though. I would say Gavin Newsom's the most... Oh, Richard called me a serious person? Look, there's this weird thing. Yeah, like JF's another one of those. Like JF and Richard have... They're very... Like, they have intelligible points. JF particularly. Like, JF's smart, too. JF... I've no doubt JF's IQ is higher than mine. That's probably true. And they say things that I think are... It's not really my forte. And it's... Let me choose my words carefully here. I think it's brave, right? Because I think that any argument in a perfect world should be on the table. That's why I liked collegiate debate. You could theoretically walk in and say, nuke China tomorrow and kill all the Chinese people. That should be fair play because it's a game, right? And you're discussing ideas, and all ideas should be allowed. You should be allowed to stand up and say, kill babies up until 2 years old. It's obviously a grotesque position that's indefensible, but in the context of a game, the game is learning to debate and put forth ideas. And if you choose a repugnant idea, you're more likely to lose than win. You might be able to win because you're so much better at debate than your opponent, but you're giving yourself an incredible handicap by choosing an argument that's so grotesque. So I was never offended, and I was in plenty of rounds that were like, kill all men, or all men should lose all wealth and positions of power, or white people, or whatever. I was never personally offended. Once they made the round personal, when they would say, you specifically are this, that was different. But just speaking in the abstract, I didn't give a shit. It was fine by me. I was never offended, whatever. So I'm attracted to the idea of all arguments should be on the table. I don't mind that. Even arguments I dislike. And you could have, the problem is, there are a large swath of arguments that you could use for nefarious purposes. And so therefore, we as a society, whether you intentionally did this or not, said that you can't make those arguments, right? And you'll get banned from social media. So for example, race IQ arguments. That would be in that category. It is very difficult to delve into that. Even just talking about it in this manner could theoretically get my channel banned, and that's absurd. And so for someone like JF or Richard Spencer to delve into those sorts of topics is brave. There is a way to delve into those topics that I think is completely justified. One of the reasons I don't delve in is because I do not have the knowledge of those topics to do so in a way to make sure that it's ethical and not allowing people to take those arguments to bad places. So for example, I have talked a lot about sort of the 1350 statistic, that maybe the reason that they're like, this was a lot of conversation back during the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd riots. Maybe the reasons that black people are more likely to be shot by police than white people is because black people tend to live in areas where there's much more violent crime. And if there's more violent crime, then you're more likely to have legitimate and illegitimate violent altercations with police. And by legitimate, I mean the police acted in a legal and lawful and legitimate manner, or the police operated in an illegal or illegitimate manner. But both of those scenarios are more likely if you're policing in a place that, say, has 30 homicides a year versus a place like where I live, where it's like the most serious crimes, like someone smoking weed in public. Like, there's probably not going to be a cop that discharges his weapon and kills an innocent person in my town because they're not like high strung because they're constantly dealing with violent crime, which means they're less likely to have to use violence themselves. Thank you, Lactoid TV. I really appreciate the raid. Thank you so much. It's a difficult question, Econoboy. How do you regulate? You know, I understand the need because we live in a capitalist society. So a platform like YouTube wants to make money. And if YouTube allows someone like Richard Spencer to come on and say, look, there are racial differences between white and black people, even if he would be right, you would say, well, if enough, you know, advertisers would be like, no, we won't advertise here. Then does YouTube have the right to be like, well, then we just don't want that argument? Probably. Yeah, I know BPF does that. Switches around, but when he gets it. So, come on now on Kick. Watch the language with your name there. Anyways. There's difference with political argumentation and whether or not these are platforms or whether or not they are sort of something different than that, right? We could talk about like Section 302 and all that stuff. It's more complicated. No, Nikki Haley would be perfect for Trump's VP list. I would go with Vivek. So anyways, I don't, like, for example, you could talk about, say hypothetically, there's two people. Let's say there's person A, and somehow you could see, you're omniscient, and you could see, and person A is not a racist, and they're like a social scientist, and they're trying to figure out why there are disparities in criminal levels. And they start to cite things about possible IQ differences, and they cite things about, well, maybe because there's more violence in this community, it explains why we're seeing more violent altercations with police. And you can see into their heart and their brain, and they're not a racist. And they're not saying this to denigrate black people. In fact, they're trying to help the black community. And then you could have a person that's the exact opposite, that's like starts with the conclusion, I dislike black people, and so what can I say to try to, you know, further justify my worldview? And they could make those exact same arguments. In other words, the arguments themselves aren't racist. There is a reason to have research and look into this stuff. But it's so easy to misinterpret it and make racist conclusions. And I do not have the knowledge, the interest, or the ability to prevent that sort of stuff from happening in a way that is a stoic way to make sure this is being done as dispassionately as possible. So, and I'll admit some cowardice. I fully will admit some cowardice. And I don't want to get my channel banned talking about things that aren't really germane to my main thoughts on the world. If my main thoughts were about, you know, race and things like that, then maybe it's worth the risk, but it's not. So I don't want to get my channel banned delving into topics. It's the same reason that I take very few transgender topics now. It's not that I think, this is offensive to say something, you know, it's that I know that I'm going to get mass reported and get banned. And that sucks, and it is a certain level of cowardice. But I also think it's strategic. So, you know, my disagreements with JF and Spencer are more to do with their proposed solutions than some of the things they talk about. And I can admit, the thing that's weird about them is completely affable, both of them. Juxtapose them to some of the insane lefties I've debated. Like, talking to them is like two adults talking. You may not like what they're saying. You may even find what they're saying was repugnant. But I think it's a productive conversation, and it's a conversation worth happening. But I understand, you know. And before anyone gives me shit and says, oh, then you're sucking up to them, I debated both Spencer and JF, and I went hard at both. So their beliefs are not my beliefs. They're not. I'm just saying, I think that it is brave to talk about that stuff. I can't see in their heart. I don't know exactly what's going on. Can they make and and let me be honest as well. I have not delved deep into what either of them have said, right? If they're saying no black people should be allowed in the country, clearly grotesque, clearly disagree. So I don't know exactly what their beliefs are on this. I only know what they've specifically said to me, and the few bits I've seen, particularly of Richard Spencer. I know more about JF's situation with his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife than I do about his beliefs on these other things. So I don't know. Hopefully I didn't sound like too much of a wimp. Do a debate review with Andrew? Yeah, I would do that. I kind of dabbled in that previously. Nick Fuentes arc. I don't think so, but you never know. Germaine is germane to the conversation. There you go. Yeah. Am I doing TikTok invasions? So Andrew said that we were going to start working on that, but that was a while ago, and I know he's gotten really busy, and I've kind of gotten busy, and so we didn't get it fulfilled. But that was the goal, that I was going to do that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, to the extent that I did these BLM debates, I didn't really even have to get into... I've debated Ben Burgess. I was happily debate Ben Burgess again. He was on a panel with me once. He was on the panel I was on where one of the things... There are moments that stick with me. Little things I remember from debates. Like, I remember this... I don't remember the name of the woman, but I remember right when lockdowns began, like maybe a month into them. And I remember being on this panel, and there was this woman from Australia, and she was like, we should lock down everything for as long as it takes. And I was like, where do you live? And she's like, Australia. And I'm like, do you live on a farm? And she's like, no. I'm like, how are you going to get food? And she's like, well, we'll keep the farms open. I'm like, but if you don't live on a farm, how's that help you? How's the food get delivered to your house? Well, at the grocery store. I'm like, okay, well, you just lock down truckers. Okay, we'll allow the truckers. I'm like, right, but no one's working at the grocery store. Okay, we'll allow the grocery store workers. And I'm like, do you see? And I said, how long do you think you could afford to lock down? She says, indefinitely. Well, she didn't use the word indefinitely. She's like, I don't know, for as long as it takes because our government pays us. Well, how's the government get money? Like, that sticks with me. That's just like, holy cow. Great stuff. Yeah, first person Q. I don't disagree with you. I think that that's absolutely true. That we cannot speak openly and honestly about what we see as the actual truth with no malice, just in an honest conversation, because of what would be implied that people would say. You're absolutely right. And I fully admit that I have cowardice in embracing that because I know I would lose my channel. But I think it's strategic cowardice because I don't think it's worth losing my channel because it's not the central issue I talk about. Do I think that Tulsi or Donald would get Trump more votes? Donald, like Don Jr.? Is that on his list? I don't know who Donald is in that. Who's the best left-wing debater in my opinion? Well, it depends on what you mean. Do you mean best left-wing debater that I've, like, in the sphere of debate that we do? Or do you mean, like, in real life? Like, because most of the people I debated in real life don't have streams. Probably the best debater I've ever debated, who no doubt is a left-winger, is a guy by the name of Gabe Morello. And I debated him. He went to Wayne State University. I debated him in college, and I almost won the round. And you know how Gabe will remember me? He won't, because Gabe was the best debater in the country, and I was just another peon that he beat in a debate. But he's a left-winger. He's a pretty good debater. Now, I don't know. I'm sure people have came and gone since then that maybe were better. You know, as far as the people that do this sort of debate sphere on here, you know, there's two ways to look at it. I guess there's three ways to look at it. There is, who do I respect the most? And then there is, who is maybe the best at specific topics? And then there is, who do I think overall? I think for, you know, I don't know. It's hard to not say Destiny's not a good debater overall. I don't think he's good on a lot of specific topics, but the way he talks and sort of the rhetorical devices that he uses and how he presents himself comes off as very persuasive to people with a general knowledge of a topic. So if you're not delving completely in, Destiny's very good at like getting one thing and then exacerbating that thing to the point where it discredits your whole argument. So he'll ask for sources for everything, which isn't in its own right a bad thing. And he has a way of sort of sneering at you in both legitimate and illegitimate ways that would persuade an audience. Synth is a debater. Like, the problem with him is he gets so fucking unhinged, right? Like all the time. And Synth is a debate bro to the max, even worse than Destiny, where Synth's the type of debate bro that'll be like, for example, the last debate I had with Synth is very simple. There was a manifesto that came out from a trans would-be shooter. This trans shooter didn't occur. It was someone who they caught them, I believe, before they were shooting. And in the manifesto, it mentioned Vaush's name. And it said, like, Vaush, idiot, or something like that. It was a negative connotation next to the word Vaush. But it was in a list of names that they were talking about of shooters, other like the Columbine shooters and others. And most of them also had negative connotations next to their name. My point was that because Vaush was calling people stochastic terrorists like Tucker Carlson or other right-wingers who were never mentioned in manifestos in many cases if there was a right-wing shooter, but Vaush said your rhetoric itself helped lead to this person being radicalized and doing that. And because Vaush was talking about the need to shoot at Patriot Prayer people and that there was a trans genocide happening and we needed to stop it before it started, just like we should have stopped the Nazis, the mere fact that Vaush's name was mentioned, even if it was in a negative connotation, proves that this person most likely heard Vaush's arguments, which meant if Vaush was going to call other people stochastic terrorists, we needed to turn that lens on himself. In addition to that, because he also called other people that he seemed to respect, like some of these other shooters' negative names, maybe that was his clever way of showing respect of, nonetheless, Synth was like, you want to debate in these statements you made publicly, and I forget exactly what I said. I said, like, this is evidence, better evidence of stochastic terrorism. I said, sure. So then I messaged him privately. And it's like, Synth, we'll get a moderator. Like, I'll be willing to defend all the things I said on here. And he's like, yeah, that's great. And so when we get on there, Synth's just like, nope, the literal direct word I asked you was like, I will debate you on that this is proof that Vaush inspired this person. And it's not proof. And I was like, well, what I said was, like, I didn't literally, like, I just thought when I say something and Synth responded, do you want to debate this? I thought he meant, dude, I want to debate what I said. Not that I had to carefully read and parse every word he said, which had nothing to do with what I said. And I was like, and I clarified in our private conversation with the debate, why should the private conversation matter? All that matters is what you agreed to publicly, and publicly you agreed to this, so I win because you can't prove that this is direct evidence that Vaush did this. That's it. That's the debate. And I was like, well, I can prove that it is evidence. Might not be proof, but there is evidence that this makes it more likely. For example, the best argument for why Vaush or me or Ian Kovac or Nico Pluto or Todd Sullivan didn't inspire someone to do an act is they probably have no idea who we are. So, like, if someone in Malaysia commits some heinous crime tomorrow and you say, I think robnoerr inspired them, probably the best argument against that is, do you have any proof this dude knows robnoerr or ever heard him? If not, probably not very likely, right? Now, so that's not being a killer. That's intentionally obfuscating because you know that the facts don't back up. That's being a debate bro to the max. And I just find it's like, what's the utility of that? When you show them someone's manifesto. So, that's how I feel about Synth. And then, like, when Synth was on the arena, like, I never kicked anyone off the arena. The only person that came close was Synth because he was absolutely unhinged. And I had to be like, Synth, come on, man. Like, just screaming, and it was not a good look. You go back and watch that episode of the arena. So that was my last two interactions with Synth, and I'm like, I think maybe he was going through a rough point in his life. I don't know. But no, I think Synth's smart and he can debate well, but Gavin Long was inspired by Jimmy Dore. Let's see. Anything breaking on X or anything? By the way, for me, I don't know if it's the same is true of you, but for me, X has totally replaced my news curation. Like, if I'm looking up a story, I'll go to X and search it before I go to, like, my browser. Whatever happened to that kid that was an LD debater, you mean? You know what? He popped on randomly a couple episodes ago and said, hey, this is me. And that's it. Yeah, Ian, my take on the whole stochastic terrorism thing, I try not to judge. And, like, for example, remember when Steve Scalise got shot by a crazy radical Bernie Sanders supporter? I didn't blame Bernie Sanders. You think Synth's better than Destiny? I haven't heard him debate for a while, so I don't know. But like I said, the last two, I'm only judging it on the interactions I've seen. Did I watch the Pelosi video? No. On X, Fabian's calling out Connor over Vex stuff. Funny. I like Fabian. See if I see any of that, if it's funny. I'm not seeing it. I guess I searched specifically. Oh, Dan the B7 talking about that's funny. All right, let's see what Fabian's saying. Just a couple posts, yeah. I see the Fabian and JF debate on surrogacy. No, I didn't see that. I gotta be honest, surrogacy is something that my gut feeling is like, sure, why not? Because I do not believe that gay people shouldn't be allowed to adopt. However, looking more into surrogacy, there's a lot of shady shit that I was totally unaware of that goes into it. So I haven't really listened to two smart people hash out a debate or delved into it much, but just in a brief skimming, I was like, wow, thank you so much, Todd Sullivan, for the super sticker. And it says, pair character doing a classic mic drop. Nice, thank you. Yeah, do I watch Glenn Greenwald debate Destiny? I watched the Glenn Greenwald panel with Alex Jones and Darren Beatty, but I did not see the actual Greenwald Destiny debate. However, upon reading left-wing reviews, I suspect Glenn did pretty well because the criticisms of Glenn were sort of peripheral to. It's very interesting how this happens. You could see how sort of a narrative is created. So you focus on something that's not really central to the debate that you think is strong. Let me give you an example. Oh shit, I'm on Twitch, so I don't know if I can do it. Thank you, Kana Claus. Shiba Dog bowing respectfully. I think I could play audio of Destiny. What the hell is it? I love these comments. Like, here's me debating Andrew Wilson, and someone's commented from months ago or a year ago, and it says, so annoying you turned down Andrew's audio. I assure you I'm not turning down anyone's audio specifically, particularly someone I like Andrew. Like, maybe I did announce that I did it, but I don't know. I can't think. Let me find this. So, like, when I debated Destiny 2 years ago, disaster. In fact, it's important that you see this. It's important that you see the thumbnail. the debates on Biden versus Trump, and I absolutely crushed him. Right? I did. In my opinion, I think it's just true. Oh, super chat train. Thank you. I think it's just true. I do. But look at what Destiny's editors do. So look at how they tag this. Now, again, the debate is on Trump versus Biden. And so what happens is Destiny gets to give the last closing statement. And Destiny did something that I am well aware of the tactic because I've done this many times in collegiate debate. And that is, you've lost the debate, but you speak last. So you just bring up completely irrelevant shit and hope that you could convince a judge, wow, that irrelevant shit that you were bringing up was persuasive. And sometimes it works. And it's kind of shitty because the other team doesn't get a chance to respond. That's just it. You get the last word, right? Thank you, Zen, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Send in your super chats. Thank you. So the debate is Trump versus Biden. Now look at how his video is tagged. Oops, that's wrong. Oops, that's wrong. Oops, that's wrong. What's going on? Okay. It's this one. Did you forget? You hate our country. Destiny pushes back against conservative debate coach. And I won't play it because I don't know what the TOS is on Twitch. But if you listen to the audio, literally, the beginning of the video is just 2 minutes of Destiny's final speech where it's like, I remember Republicans yelling about freedom fries instead of French fries. What does that have anything to do with this debate about Biden versus Trump? But it's effective. His audience is like, great speech, man. Yeah, you did it. Thank you, Wicked Wally, for the super chat. What do you call him, a moral Scottish baker? A Pielander. Well done. Wally, I was talking positive about you earlier. Someone asked about all the names on the arena list. And I mentioned Wicked Wally. He said he's hilarious. No, you didn't. What did we see? It was, here, let's go through it in case you're curious. What was I showing there? Window capture. So we had this, Discord, and then that, OBS and Telegram. That's it. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you I've never looked at pornography. I have. I've been very good recently. I think pornography is really bad for you. Like, all joking aside, I really do think it's really bad for you. And I'm not saying it makes you the worst person in the world, but it takes a toll on you spiritually, and I think, like, I do. I feel that way. So it's something that I really try to avoid. And I could say with 100% honesty, none of my computers I use have ever had pornography on them. So I'm not too worried about. The worst you'll see is like maybe a random private Discord conversation that I wouldn't want made public, but not because I said something shitty. I always try to respect the people I'm having private conversations with, and I don't want their comments to be made out. I really don't care about my comments. I assume they'll all be made public anyways. But I can't think of a time that I've been involved in a conversation that would even remotely be considered like anything controversial. So it's a free feeling that I don't have to worry that I'll accidentally click the wrong button on my computer and bring something up that I don't want to see. Do you have any debates coming up? Well, I'm going to be on Tim Pool's show March 1st, and they're trying to find me an opponent. I know they've reached out to the Krasensteins. We'll see where it goes from there, though. But I'm sure Pisco will call in one of these nights, and I'll yell at him. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't get it, but my rule of thumb, and I've violated this rule maybe once or twice in the entire time I've been streaming. The first rule I've never violated. I assume that any text message I send to anyone or any phone call I make regarding politics and online streaming will eventually be made public. So I called Aftershock today. I assume at some point that conversation will be made public. There's nothing in there that would be of interest to like, wow, you know. But But you just assume, like, I don't know, because Aftershock gets pissed at me, or Aftershock gets arrested and they go through his phone and they decide to release it. I don't know, right? So any Discord chat, any text message, any email, I assume it'll all get made public. And so if you operate under that assumption, then you probably are more careful to make sure you're not saying anything. Yeah, thank you, Poon. Yeah, I'm supposed to be on Tim Pool's show March 1st, yeah. I definitely am on an FBI list. I totally agree. The other thing is, and I have violated this once or twice, I always assume anytime I'm in front of a computer or anything with a camera that it could be live and on. So now, obviously, like, the same's true of your cell phone. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've never, like, been on the toilet on a cell phone. That's clearly, obviously we have. But, like, I stream with this computer and this camera. So this is the streaming room. As soon as I walk in this door, I assume, just for the sake of not causing harm, that camera is live streaming as I walk in the room. Even if I'm not, it's like a loaded gun. I assume the gun's loaded, always. And so you're always careful with it. Because I don't want to be, like, cleaning up my underwear or something, vacuuming, and then, the camera's streaming or something like that. So, that's just my rule of thumb. Now, there have probably been one or two incidents where, I walked in front of a camera in my underwear or something, but I've never done anything super untoward. Don't pull a DSP, yeah. So, but yeah, and I think a good rule of thumb, if you're into weird stuff, and you're downloaded stuff for your pleasure, we'll just say, like, you should not do it on the computer you're streaming with, because anything could happen. So that's, All right, we got 22 more minutes. I'm going to be done by 11. Unfortunately, I couldn't chum any left-wingers in. It would have been nice. I would have been very happy with that. I thought for sure I'd bait, like, Pisco or someone that was really itching, jumping the gun. It's weird. He's probably not that interested in jumping in and talking, even though he's talking a big game on X. Does anybody have a separate computer? I actually do have two computers. I have this computer, and then I have the laptop that I stream on when I'm not at home. But same rule applies to it. So like I said, there is zero pornography on. Now, one thing I'll say, well, it's not entirely true. Is anyone a little annoyed by this? And again, I'm not super prudish. I'm not the type of guy that sees, like, someone naked and I'm like, oh my God, this affected me in the worst way possible. But it is a bit much on X sometimes, just scrolling through. And it's really bad. It's not necessarily the first post, but you'll click to read comments. And I can't tell you, dozens of times I've seen, like, what I would categorize as blatant pornography just on your feed in Twitch. And I'm not saying, oh, boycott Twitch, or this is Elon's. I'm not, or not Twitch, Twitter. I'm not saying boycott it or it's his fault or anything, but it's like, yeah, it's annoying. I don't want the shit in my phone. I don't want it on my computer. I don't. I really don't. Like, honestly. Again, I'm not saying I'm like, no, but it's just like, this is a little annoying. Now, I don't think that stays on your computer or your phone or anything like that, but that's, if I'm being totally honest, yes, in that level, there have been pornographic images on my computer, but literally just because they happen to be on X as you were streaming through, What do I think about Destiny only covering the Israel stuff after her and Trump stuff going on? I think the same thing I think of almost every other left-wing streamer that I've debated, that they don't want to cover things that are possibly negative for their side, that they're hypocritical. And when you're hypocritical, what it means, well, I always say this, when you're a hypocrite, it means you don't care about the thing that you claim to, but you know other people do, right? And so there is a swath of people, for example, kids in cages. I care about kids in cages. I'm also a realist. I understand there's no utopian decision and that it's a very difficult position. But if I could snap my fingers and make sure that no kid was ever detained in the history of the world ever again, I would do it. If we could do that without creating more social problems, I absolutely would. I'm not some fucking monster. I see kids locked up. It hurts. That sucks. Kids are innocent. They're not to blame for shit, But I also know the real world implications. I understand the game that's being played. I understand why the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that way, because they thought, if you can't detain adults and kids together because there could be potential bad things that happen, then they'll have to leave the adult and the kid through because you wouldn't detain a kid. And Obama said, no, I will detain the kid. And that's what happened. And that's what happened under Trump. And they didn't say anything under Obama. Then they did under Trump. And then when it was 4 times worse under Biden, they said nothing again. What does that prove? They never cared about kids in cages. They don't care. If they did, they would be furious that Biden had 4 times more. They didn't care about kids in cages, but they knew you did. They knew people did. So to them, it's, here are political points we could get. They didn't care about hashtag believe all women. They cared that they could use those accusations to weaponize against their political rivals. But when they were directed against their political people on their side, they decided all of a sudden we don't believe all women. What does that prove? They never cared about sexual assault, but they knew the average person did. That's what it proves. So all of the people that told you they were so concerned with Trump potentially mishandling classified information, and it was egregious that he would read it publicly or mention it publicly to someone that didn't have a clearance like a writer, none of them really believed that shit. They just said, get Trump. Here's an excuse. And then when they find out Biden did it worse, they're like, we're just going to forget about it. They didn't give a shit, but they knew that the average person would. That's the truth about Destiny right now. That's the truth about Pisco. It's the truth about I'm Really Important that was on here. Maybe I haven't seen. And again, any of these people could have talked about it on stream. I'm not following all their streams. I'm just talking about their social media presence like X. I haven't seen anyone comment on it that I debated. They don't give a shit. Whatever. We never really gave a shit about that. It was just an excuse to go after Trump next. That's it. Again, they're gnashing their teeth right now because they're like, oh my God, were there people in Trump's administration that had a back channel to someone who had connections to Russians that were spreading disinformation? I think the story's being well overblown, but we'll see. But what we do know, that's exactly what happened with the Hillary candidacy. And the FBI was taking that Russian information sourced by a suspected Russian spy, and none of these people gave a shit. They said it's a joke, it's a hoax, we had reason to investigate, it's all conspiracy theory, blah, 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 blah. And now as soon as the worm turns slightly, they're like, oh my God. They never believed any of it. It was just an excuse to go after the guy they don't like. That's it. Elk, how do I call in? Well, you could use Discord, but unfortunately, I have a hard 11 p.m. Cutoff time, so I don't know how long you would have to. It would depend on what you wanted to talk about, I guess. We only have like 5-10 minutes. So maybe best another night. But yeah, that's what I think about that. They hope the story blows over and we get to a new news cycle. And then when I debate Destiny again or talk to Destiny again and I bring up the Her report, he'll go, oh, that's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. It didn't say anything. It's all bullshit. It didn't say any of that. It didn't. And this is what about us. We're just trying to deflect about this story about Trump. That'll be it. That's a long time ago. That's what'll happen. And you get to do that when the institutions are all on your side. Accurate Destiny person. The funny thing, I love the criticisms that Destiny's fans make about me. They'd be like, he gish gallops. He just talks really fast. It's like, that's exactly what Destiny does. I say I do it less than him, but even if you would say, well, you're biased, I mean, it's undoubtable that that's the type of shit Destiny does. What do I think about Daily Wire focusing on red pill stuff? I don't know. I don't follow the Daily Wire, so I don't give a shit. I'll say this. I think the Daily Wire's done good in at least attempting to take a step into culture and push sort of a right-wing agenda. But I've never been all that impressed on the issues that I find most important with the Daily Wire people. For example, I feel like Ben Shapiro was the last guy across the finish line on the corruption in the Russia investigation. I remember listening to him live in 2017 and 2018 saying things like, don't attribute to malice what you could attribute to stupidity. Whoa, Trump saying that he was spied on and stuff like, okay, man. So it's like, great, you got there at the end somewhat, but you actually had the potential to move the needle, unlike some guy like me that was streaming to 4 people. And I'm shouting my head off at how corrupt it is in real time. So, I haven't watched them much. I don't know exactly what they're doing. I see the little clips of Michael Knowles on whatever, and whatever, I guess is what I say about that. But Matt Walsh doing the video on sort of trans issues, I hadn't watched the video, but I thought it was smart. Am I streaming tomorrow? Yeah, I believe so. I should, unless something comes up. Ben Shapiro sucks, Nico says. By the way, welcome to my next sponsor, Daily Wire and Benjamin. Yeah, I should be streaming tomorrow. Unless something crazy comes up, which I don't anticipate. But we'll see. I thought about going over the Mike Benz interview. I thought about reading through Tony Bobolinsky's transcript. And then I also thought about reading through the complete confidential human source, Smirnov, the indictment. Or I could watch a debate and review it, I guess. Whatever people want. Hot tub stream, no. I actually have an inflatable hot tub. It's like a Coleman inflatable hot tub. It's nice. And I think I made a boo-boo. I plugged it into an extension cord because there wasn't an outlet, so it's in my garage. And the extension cord probably wasn't up to snuff for the power of this wire. And so it burned my extension cord. Thank God it didn't cause a fire. And now I think that it's damaged the power source of my hot tub, so I have to buy a new one and replace that. So no hot tub stream for the short term. The hot tub is not hot. It's filled with cold water that needs cleaned. So, just be clear, you didn't present shred evidence, right? Yeah, Destiny always conflates evidence with proof. So you'll present tons of evidence, and he'll be like, but that's not evidence. Yeah, it is evidence. You might not think the evidence rises to the standard of proof, but it's evidence. Yeah, exactly, TL. Well, listen, we're all tribalist. We are. It's just true. It's innately in us as humans. We identify with people based on certain characteristics, and we advocate for people based on those. The most simple form of it's your family. I'm certainly tribalist for me, my wife, and my son. I want the best outcomes for us. So it's understandable. It's unavoidable, even if you don't like it. I'm not going to criticize someone for being like, I want to stick up for Israel and the Jewish people. Why? Because I do the same thing, just not based on race or ethnicity or even religion. Like for me, my primary focus are people that live in rural America. That includes Muslims. That includes Jewish people. That includes white people, black people, gay people, straight people. That's the group I see that I focus on. One of the reasons I focus on corruption so much is because I feel these institutions have left these people behind, and not just politics. I feel the entertainment industry, and I feel these people are now being targeted as the enemy. So that's why I focus on these institutions and their corruption in targeting these people. That's where what I'm interested in comes from. So if that's the people that I have an affinity for and I'm working on, focused on what I perceive as the problems they deal with, who am I to criticize a black person that says, I want to focus on inner city black problems? I'm no one. Like, it's a similar thing to what I'm doing. Or if you're Ben Shapiro and you're like, I want to focus on Israel, that's fine. I don't have to like it. I could criticize it and say, well, that doesn't stand to the values that I hold the most, the fact that you're doing this. That's fine. But I don't mind him doing it, I guess, It's not for me, that's for sure, but now the hot tub I have, I'm guessing it's here. This ain't going to be the exact one, but I don't know which the brand mine is or anything like that. These are all way more expensive than the ones I have. But you can see. $4.99. That one kind of looks like mine, though mine's not a Coleman. And this is just Home Depot. But yeah, you can get them for under $500. It's $4.89. That might be the one I have. And I enjoy it. It's not super luxury. It could probably fit like 4 people in it, maybe. Let's see. They, obviously a real like non-inflatable hot tub can. But I think it was I think maybe I got that as a gift for my wife for her birthday or something. So I don't know. If I could do a hot tub stream making 150K a year, streaming 4 days a week, would I do it? No, I would consider it along the lines of OnlyFans, which I would find immoral and wouldn't do that. Maybe I would do it if my family was literally starving and I had no choice. But other than that, no. I would not sell out for that. It's not worth it. Yeah, Real Will fixes hot tubs on the side. I had a friend that worked at a hot tub dealership. He sold them, and then went with the crew and went and installed them. But so many people give them away. Yeah. I also, from that guy, he actually gave one to another friend of mine who used it for like a garden bed, believe it or not, and put like dirt in it, and it was actually pretty cool looking. You don't have to be indecent. Yeah, still, I personally would not feel comfortable with it. I guess if I'm just fully clothed sitting in a hot tub, like, yeah, today we're going to talk about Hulk Hogan's WrestleMania match against Yokozuna. I guess maybe. All right, we got 8 minutes. We're going to make it. We're going to do this thing. In fairness, I've done embarrassing stuff. I've rapped on stream for a hype train. So I think Republicans have shot themselves in the foot by not codifying the first trimester abortion. Most women clearly want at least that. Yeah, to an extent. This is a difficult problem with being someone who tries to be principled. Sometimes your principles will have detrimental effects pragmatically. For example, the easiest example would be like complete anarcho-capitalist, right? Like complete. Now, I'm not going to speak for them, but you could see this, and I've heard people make these arguments. Maybe if my friends Fabian or Casimir were here, they would tell me I'm wrong about what, Marxist libertarianism would say. If you truly believe in total freedom, you have to bite some bullets, right? And so one of those bullets might be like, oh, so you're saying the crackhead should just be allowed? I saw this debate happening. Crackhead should be allowed in the public school? That's what you're saying? And you'd be like, well, I don't think the public schools should exist, but to the extent it does, the government shouldn't be able to enforce who it's there. So if the crackhead wants to be there, now that might confirm to your principles. You ain't gonna win no elections with that shit. Ain't gonna happen, right? You lose. That's how I view the abortion thing. If you think life begins in conception, it's non-negotiable. How many babies are you willing to kill to win an election? I mean, think about this question truly. Really think about it. If you literally, like my son Hank, who's 3, if you say he is a life to the equivalent of the 4-week-old fetus, how many kids like my son would you be willing to cause physical harm or exterminate to win an election? Now, you could say pragmatically, and it's true, like, that's a loser. If you run on no abortions ever, you're going to lose. But I can't expect those people to be like, oh, okay, then kill some babies. Well, Martin Dillon, I bet you know the answer to that question. Martin says, how come more pundits and politicians aren't expressing their anger about the insanity of these summary judgment Trump's going through? It's insane. Because they want it. They're okay with it. That's why. Orange man bad. Even the Republicans. Even the Mitch McConnells of the world. Yeah, you're right. GOP is a uniparty. All right, we have 5 minutes. Let's start wrapping her up here. So hopefully I'll be streaming tomorrow evening. Just give a last shout out to this. So again, I'm trying to make a push to be more consistent with my streaming. I think I have the opportunity here getting on Tim Pool's show. I'll tell you what I would like to have happen. I hope I go on Tim Pool's show. Best case scenario was they find someone really good for me to debate. And I'll do fine. I know I will because I'm good. and I think people will like me, and I think I'll do well, and hopefully that encourages more people to check me out. What I would like is for that to be a launching board for me to be able to have conversations with some people that have heretofore been out of my reach. So maybe like someone like Dan Bongino or Jimmy Dore or Matt Tiabi or Dave Smith, people like that, Viva Frey. And I think that it'll sort of possibly have a snowball effect where if I could get, thank you, Brad Zid, I appreciate it. If I could get more eyeballs on me, I think that people will like what I'm saying. So that's what I'm hoping happens. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I go in and get blown out in some debate, and everyone's like, that guy's a chump. Could happen. Or maybe I do really well and I just fizzle out. It could happen too. But there's a potential. It's an opportunity that I haven't had so far, and I want to try to make sure that I'm doing other things that are in line with trying to maximize those opportunities. So I am trying to stream more consistently, at least 4 days a week. And, hopefully people enjoy this content. I know tonight's show might not have been the most exciting in that I didn't come in with really a specific idea of what I was going to talk about. But I hope I keep it entertaining and informative, and I hope people enjoy it. And hopefully the channel will start to grow, and the newer audience will feel that way as well. But I do really appreciate you all for being here. It makes it fun, and that's why I stream. It's not that fun if it's me talking to myself. But if there's people watching and people putting in their input, whether it be agreeing or disagreeing, I find that to be much more entertaining. And that's my primary reason for streaming. So thank you. Really appreciate it, Poon. I really do. Thank you. So hopefully you'll see me tomorrow evening. I'm trying. It's hard to say I'll be on exactly at 8 o'clock unless I have something pre-planned like a debate. Because what I try to do is leave Hank go to sleep and then come up. That way I'm not missing spending any time with him. And normally he's been going to bed around 8 o'clock though. Today's a complete mess. I think he's still awake downstairs because the Penguin game was a lot of stimulation we were at last night. So then he took a nap during the midday today, which he almost never does, which probably means he'll be up later. So, yeah, well, 2 minutes, we're ending now. Anyone worth rating? Not that there aren't people worth rating. Of course there are, but I don't know them. So, like, if no one I follow is on, I don't know what to do as far as raid. My friend Sparky. We'll do him. I think Aircraft Sparky's a show you'll really love. It's a good show. So, sorry, already beat you there, Aftershock. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. So, sometime in the evening tomorrow, 8, 9, something like that, I'll try to get something exciting lined up for you. We'll review something or I'll debate someone. I hope it'll be fun. So, thanks so much. Let me start this right. I forgot to do that. You guys are the best as always. Oh, that date, by the way, March 1st. And one thing to say. Clearly, I'll probably even stream mobily on my mobile phone the night before, because the March 1st, if it is March 1st, it'll either be the 1st or the 15th. If it is March 1st, it'll be in the morning. It's the Culture War podcast. So I'll probably stream before then and be putting messages out on X. But you'll have to watch that on Tim's show because I'll be there live. So clearly, I won't be streaming to my own channel. So, I'll let you know, but mark it on your calendar, March 1st. You won't be able to check it out. You're not going to get a notification that Rob just went live because it's a real life thing. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to y'all soon. As always, have a good one.
Who are recklessly giving away money that doesn't belong to them. New York Mayor Eric Adams is currently facing calls for an